Hi, this is Bowen Yang here, and if you're as excited as I am about the upcoming 4th season of Search Party on HBO Max, then you'll want to tune in to Search Party, the podcast. In each episode, I go behind the scenes with the writers and actors of the disturbingly dark comedy and chat favorite moments and themes with special guest celebrity fans. Search Party Season 4 comes to HBO Max on January 14th, with Seasons 1 through 3 available now. Meanwhile, subscribe and listen to Search Party, the podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's pretty easy these days to feel disconnected. We're pulled in so many different directions, and that can leave us feeling incredibly fragmented. But together, we can grow more connected to ourselves and to each other. And that is what my new podcast is all about, coming home to our wholeness. Listen and follow Holy Human with me, Leanne Rhymes, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Thanks for listening to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Here we go on a loaded Friday live in Los Angeles. It is the Herd. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, Fox Sports Radio, iHeartRadio, FS1, it is a pleasure to have you in today. What a treat that game was last night. What an absolute treat. That is... Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm just becoming more appreciative in COVID of anything other than isolation. I had a ball watching that game with a buddy last night. Had an absolute ball watching the Chargers and the Raiders.
No way. That game was so fun.
It was so fun.
It was crazy. Marcus Mariota comes out, like, from where? Running all over the place, making big plays, and then, of course, turns the ball over. It was wild. I loved it.
I know. Sometimes, everybody was criticizing the NBA bubble, and I'm like, are you kidding me? We're in a pandemic. We got virtual fans, and I get to watch this NBA basketball with all this intensity. I'm like, I'm having the time of my life locked into my house.
Wonderful.
So I want to start with this. I remember watching Charles Barkley in his first couple years in the NBA. He played in Philadelphia, and he didn't have all the games on all the time. So you'd see highlight. We didn't have YouTube. You didn't have Google. You didn't have all the cable stuff where you'd see every game every night. But I remember getting glimpses of him, and he could shoot jumpers. He could score in transition. He had a big butt. He could score down low. And I remember thinking, watching him, I'm like, God, points come so easy to Charles Barkley. He could score out. He could score in. He scores in transition. He could dribble for a big guy. And I'm like, good God, what can't he do? That reminds me of Justin Herbert. He's big, he's strong, he can run, he's 6'6". It shouldn't look this easy for a rookie with no preseason. It should not look this easy. Joe Burrow's good. It doesn't look easy. Baker Mayfield's got talent. Tua's got talent. It doesn't look easy. Josh Allen is exceptional. Do you remember his rookie year? He completed 52% of his throws. He had more picks than touchdowns. It was never easy for Josh Allen. Okay, this just is easy. This is throw and catch. And I want to hear about the Raiders' defense. It shouldn't look like this. This is not the way it's supposed to look. First of all, the great news for when you get a great quarterback, it creates clarity. So the Chargers will know going forward, if you're not scoring enough points, you got to fire the offensive coordinator. And if you're not winning enough games, you got to fire the head coach. If you get a guy like Mitch Trubisky, it's finger pointing. I thought Matt Nagy was a good coach. Maybe he's not. Is it the offensive line? Is our GM clueless? Trubisky wins games, but it's always question marks. You drive to the facility now with the Chargers knowing if we don't win and score, then it's got to be the coordinator or the coach, or we have a bad offensive line. It creates complete clarity. When Andrew Luck showed up and he was winning, but you weren't winning enough, it's like, oh, they had to fire the GM. GM's not good enough. We got to get rid of the coach. When you get one of these once-a-decade talents, Trevor Lawrence, if he doesn't win in New York, you're going to be like, okay, we got the wrong coach or the wrong GM or a bad offensive line. And listen, I like Anthony Lynn. I know Anthony Lynn, but they've lost 16 one-possession games in 2 years. Atlanta, Detroit, those are the two other teams that kept losing close games. They fired their coaches. I think Anthony Lynn's in trouble. I thought he took the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands last night. I mean, good guy. They couldn't stop him. He stopped using him. Then when they went back to overtime, they're like, all right, kid, crank it up. Boom, they won the game. I didn't love that. I didn't think it was a great night for Anthony Lynn. But here's the good news for the Chargers, is that this kid is so talented. I mean, there's three organizations right now. The Jets are going to get Trevor Lawrence, and they're going to get a coach. The Texans have Deshaun Watson, and they're going to get a coach. And the Chargers have Justin Herbert and may get a coach. Boy, Los Angeles becomes very attractive. If Brian Daboll's out there or an Urban Meyer, you live in L.A., it's a built-to-win roster. You're just losing close games. Herbert's only getting better. Very rarely do you take over a job in the NFL and get this, or Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence. You end up taking over a job and getting a quarterback who's probably a backup that you forced into a starter, and you got to draft one, and you can whiff on the first one. That's a very Cleveland experience. Or no. The Texans, the Jets, and the Chargers. You got a star ready to win. And this kid, unlike Deshaun Watson's, never had injuries, and this kid, unlike Trevor Lawrence, we've already seen him play in the NFL. Charger ownership is very sensitive. They can't sell tickets. They've gotten a lot of negative press for the move from San Diego, where I do think they fit better. So Charger ownership, prove us wrong. Prove us wrong. Because if you can't win with that kid, then you got the wrong coach. If you can't score a lot of points with that kid, then you've got the wrong offensive coordinator. Because it does not look like that for a rookie. Ever. Elway didn't look like that. Nobody looks like that. Mahomes didn't even play his first year. That's not what it's supposed to look like. I mean, the only time he wasn't flying up and down the field is when the coach took the ball out of his hands. So do what you want with Anthony Lynn. I worry about the one possession losses. That's as games get late, the decisions get harder. I don't know. But I'm just sitting there and I'm like, this has such a Barkley feel to it. The kid's big. Quarterback sneak, he's great. Run him, he's great. Arm, great. 4.2 biology major. Brainiac, great. I said, he's Andrew Luck, but a way better arm. That's unbelievable. All right, so I want to talk about Jon Gruden for a second. I know Jon, I like Jon. But the Raiders have been blown out 14 times by 17 or more since he took over the Raiders. Only the Jets have been blown out more. I just want that to sit there for a second. Raiders get blown out a lot. And we are seeing a trend now, and I am not a believer, as Joy is my witness, in coincidences. Things happen, and when they happen over and over and over and over again, they happen for a reason. The Raiders and Gruden are getting worse at the end of years. Assuming the Raiders miss the playoffs, I want to read this to you. It'll be the third time Jon Gruden has coached the team, started 6-3 and missed the playoffs. The 98 Raiders, the 2008 Bucs, the 2020 Raiders. I am not counting this team. It should be 4, but they started 6-4. Since the NFL expanded playoffs in 1990, there's been 140 teams that have started 6-3. No other coach in the NFL in that stretch 3 times has done that and missed the playoffs, except Gruden. Now, why do they keep getting bad? At the end of seasons. Now, I could go with a bunch of hunches. Does Gruden's personality wear people out? That seems like kind of a reach, right? There's a lot of personalities. Nick Saban wears you out. His teams are good late. Belichick can be harsh. His teams are good late. Is it possible, or is it probable, that Gruden's an average coach, and he's more media marketing maven than football genius? Listen. Chucky, best-selling team, TV star. Brian Billick and Gruden won a Super Bowl. They're both known as offensive guys, but their Super Bowl teams were about defense. One guy, without the big personality, Billick, never got another job. Jon gets a 10-year deal. Why? Because he used television to leverage himself into another job. I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but we've always elevated him to kind of a level that, why do his teams get bad late? Let me ask you this. Is that every boss I've ever had, the more I'm around him, the better I get. Bill Belichick is the best late season coach in the NFL. NFL. I could argue Sean Payton is second. Why? Because the longer Belichick teaches and mentors young men, the better they get. That makes sense, right? The longer Sean Payton, who struggles like Belichick in September, the longer Sean Payton has his team, he's a great coach, a great boss, the better they get. It makes sense. Every boss I've ever had, the more I'm with him, the better I get. With Gruden, the more he barks and teaches, the worse his teams get. Maybe he's just an average coach who's got great media. We know the media can sway and alter and bend narratives. But in September, Gruden wins 57% of his games. You know what he wins in December? 38% of his games. It's not supposed to go this way. He says, if you look at Gruden's career, he's slightly above 500. His last playoff win was 18 years ago. The last 2 playoff games he was in, wild card games, he lost. I mean, he took a Super Bowl roster, tweaked the offense, and won. Does that make him a genius? He had a best-selling book. He's absolutely wonderful on TV. He's great. The quarterback camp is great. Monday Night Football has never felt the same. No shot at anybody. It just doesn't feel as good. We see the media do this all the time. They play favorites. The media likes people who are verbal and talk. The media loves Daryl Morey of the Houston Rockets because he talks and he makes our job easy. Gruden makes our job easy. He's got great quotes. He's likable. He's got a bunch of media friends. You know, is it possible he's just an average coach? That's just what he is. That's what the numbers say. Not everybody that's won a Super Bowl is a genius. Brian Billick, another offensive genius, won a Super Bowl. Why didn't he get second and third chances? Because he didn't leverage his TV personality into another job. If your teams consistently get worse, the more the players are around you, how in the world could I call that a great coach? That's not the way it was with Don Coryell or Andy Reid or Sean Payton or Bill Belichick. The more you get of them, the better you are. Here's Gruden after.
I have a one-track mind, and that involves winning. And this is going to help us in some ways, but it's really painful right now to lose. And we've had a lot of tight games go down to the buzzer, and this one was tough. You got to win these tight games, and oftentimes that's a reflection on the head coach.
I'm not saying he's a terrible coach. He won a Super Bowl, but I see this a lot, and it's ridiculous to deny this. The media, they've done studies on it. More media people, lean left than right. There can be a Fox News, but that's a fact. And here's the second thing that's true about the media, because I've been in it 30 years. They like people who make their job easier. I'm as guilty as anybody. I go to the talkers. Gruden's just big and funny and great in the mic and says things, and he's kind of available, and his teams get worse the more they're around him. That doesn't sound like a great coach to me. Coming up next, the Saints were just tricking us. Little gamesmanship by the Saints this week. Blazing 5 topping next hour.
Be sure to catch live editions of the Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
In the summer and autumn of 2020, the city of Portland, Oregon became the center of a vast media blitz. Thousands of viral videos showing marching federal agents and police officers tear gas, black-clad anarchists and fires went viral all over the internet. What didn't go viral was the truth, because the story of Portland's Black Lives Matter movement and of the Portland protests of 2020 is so much stranger than I think the mainstream media would ever be willing to cover. I was there, and more importantly, the people that I talked to for my new show, Uprising, A Guide from Portland, were there. Through their experiences, you'll learn the truth, both about Portland and about what's coming for the rest of the United States in the next few years. Listen to Uprising, A Guide from Portland on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Nearly 600 years after the invention of the printing press, the most important book in the history of the world has arrived.
That might be overstating things.
Stuff You Should Know, an incomplete compendium of mostly
necessarily true.
Most scientists agree that Stuff You Should Know, an incomplete compendium of mostly interesting things, is proof that time travel is possible. Because that is the only way to explain how a book this impressive was possibly made.
What?
Stuff You Should Know, an incomplete compendium of mostly interesting things, will regrow hair, whiten your teeth, and improve your love life.
That's just not at all right. Well, the love life part, maybe, if you find someone who thinks smart is sexy.
Stuff You Should Know, an incomplete compendium of mostly interesting things. Available now at stuffyoushouldknow.com and everywhere you buy books.
Now that is true.
New streaming service called Discovery Plus, starting next year, US only. You're going to get some exclusive originals and then stuff on it like the Food Network, HGTV. So, I'm not into your words, I'm into your actions. A lot of people talk, yap, yap, yap. How do you act? Sean Payton, love Taysom Hill. This guy's unbelievable. Drew Brees is starting this week. Little gamesmanship by the Saints. If he's starting this week, they knew he was starting on Monday or Tuesday. The quote today, Drew Brees will start against the Chiefs. Cleared him to play. He's fully healthy. He wasn't banged up on Monday and now can play on Friday. Gamesmanship. He had Kansas City and the Chiefs looking at Taysom Hill footage, and now they're going to play Drew Brees. This tells me a couple things. This is what Sean Payton really thinks of Taysom Hill. He's a really cool chess piece. That's it. There's nothing wrong with that. He's unique. He's cool. I can play around. I can show you how smart I am. But in the end, he's got a better arm than Drew, indisputable, and a significantly better athlete than Drew. That's not arguable. And they score fewer points with Taysom Hill. He's a chess piece. That's what he is. By the way, the Saints aren't getting the number one seed. This team is uniquely built to win on the road, nor is home as advantageous as it has been now because no fans. I don't know why they don't play Taysom Hill. I actually disagree with this. When Sean Payton decided to use Taysom Hill, and everybody said, whoa, 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 I said, he's smarter than me. Let's just watch. They're paying Taysom Hill. He wanted to get him starts and reps. What do I have? I'm paying for. I'm not paying Jameis Winston anything. But in this instance, I still think the smarter play. You're not getting the number one seed. Play Taysom Hill against the Chiefs. You're really a favorite to meet them again. I would rather let the Chiefs see all this Taysom Hill stuff and then give them a totally different game. Now, Sean Payton is probably even smarter than me. He's thinking, I am going to meet the Chiefs, but I'm not going to play Taysom Hill at all. So when you see Taysom Hill the first time in the Super Bowl, you're not going to have any idea what you're getting. Maybe that's the way he's thinking. But the Sean Payton-Taysom Hill relationship to me has always felt like it's 75% genius and mad scientist of Sean Payton and 25% Taysom Hill's talent. Whereas Brady and Belichick, I think we could argue, is 50-50. Mahomes, Andy Reid feels absolutely they're both better with each other. You know, one coach won without him. Mahomes didn't win much without Andy, but there's no question Andy's winning more with him. I think it should be, if you got the right coach and the quarterback, it should be 50-50. Right now, Justin Herbert feels like a 65-35 edge over the coaching staff there. But this one feels like overwhelmingly about the genius mad scientist coach manipulating the marginally talented 30-year-old quarterback who's got a unique skill set, but you don't build around. So Brees is starting. I like the Saints, by the way, with or without Drew Brees in this game. Blazing 5 top of next hour. Joy Taylor with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Well, last night was something.
Oh, it was all sorts of good. I was all in on that thing from... I even watched the pregame show last night. I was so into it.
It was so fun. Well, unfortunately for Derek Carr, he left the game with a strained groin and is still being evaluated. It's not looking like he's going to be back anytime soon, as it looks like it might be a little more serious than they thought last night. But Marcus Mariota came in and was on fire.
He was.
The Raiders did lose, but he threw for 226 yards, 2 total touchdowns, and after the game he reflected on finally getting back out in the field.
You know, to be truthful, it's been a long journey. You know, I've been through kind of everything. from injuries to surgeries to you know, mental kind of just lapses and the confidence thing. And I just truly appreciate the Raiders and the entire organization for kind of helping me through that.
He he was so good in that short little window that, like, social media was talking about where he's going to end up.
Well,
the starting quarterback next year.
now, I've got a real strong opinion on this later in the show. I'm going to do a Marcus Mariota segment later in the show. But I will say this. He's always been big and fast.
Yeah.
There's an electricity to the way he plays. And I do believe last night the general managers around the league saw him and thought, in a pinch, we can make him a franchise guy for 2 years.
Right, but the key to that sentence was in a pinch and for a few years. So we like to overreact to fun, right?
Well, Joy, it was a standalone NFL game.
Exactly.
This is what we do. And so we go nuts. And I do think he has starter talent.
Well, he does.
He's
And
always
he has
had that.
plenty of starting experience.
And he's a good dude. People in the league
Yes,
like him. I know
yes.
I have a friend of a friend who, and he's a good dude.
To me, and listen, they still lost. So
Yeah.
let's keep it all in perspective.
Right.
But I do think what he showed is how valuable it can be to have a good backup quarterback.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, the backup quarterback position, and I don't know why we didn't kind of always subscribe to this, is extremely valuable.
He is the most talented backup quarterback in the NFL.
Yes.
He is significantly more talented as a quarterback than Taysom Hill, who everybody's into now.
And I mean, the Saints are a good example of how important it is to have to invest in a valuable backup quarterback. If you're a team that is competing for championships, you should have a great backup quarterback. I wish the Steelers had invested in a strong backup
I had
quarterback.
somebody else tell me 2 nights ago, Sam Darnold, Pittsburgh, keep your eye on it. They said, like, they can't go from Ben to what they have. They probably need to get a kid that if he has to start 2 games can win one.
I don't understand why they didn't do it this offseason. They were in the playoff conversation last year with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges.
Yeah.
You should have learned the lesson then that you should have a strong backup quarterback.
And the backup should play a little bit like your starter.
Yeah.
And Darnold is kind of an athlete, an ad-libber, and so is Ben. Your backup should look a little and play a little like RG3 and Lamar.
Yes.
They should be a little like each other. You don't have to change your offensive system with the backup.
I was happy for Marcus Mariota, though. Like, it was
Yeah.
really fun to watch.
You could tell, Joy, from his body language, he was so thankful
Yes.
to play football.
Yeah.
He was having so much fun playing
And he had a
football.
little confidence,
Yeah.
a little swag. Like, he doesn't usually play like that. So Jalen Hurts took over the Eagles' starting job last week. And led the team to a big win over the Saints, and he'll get his second start this week against the Cardinals. This is a sneaky good game this weekend. And Doug Peterson revealed how he's seen Carson Wentz help the rookie even after getting benched.
I just see the communication. Number one, at practice, during games, just the communication, the dialogue back and forth. Obviously through press, through myself. Just that communication, and that's the one gauge that tends to lead things in the right direction, and that's what I've been seeing.
Hurts has also said that Wentz has been, quote, very supportive.
On the sidelines, he looks like he is.
I think, I had to think about it a little bit when I read this story. What kind of person wouldn't be supportive? Now, I understand privately you might feel some type of way.
Oh, Joy, there's a lot of guys are different. You women are more supportive. Women support women. Guys don't support guys.
Okay, but what kind of teammate are you
Well,
if the second that you aren't out there, you're trying to sabotage the most important guy on the field?
Well, you've gone to sabotage. I would say there's a difference between sabotage.
Okay, but if say Jalen Hurts has like a question in the quarterback room, right? And Wentz, no, maybe there's no such thing as like the answer, but Wentz knows what to do in that situation or whatever,
Yeah.
like, or it's on the sideline and whatever, like in the heat of the game. And Wentz is like, well, I know what to tell him what to do, but I got benched, so I'm not going to help him.
Hey,
Like,
listen.
that hurts your team.
Listen, Westbrook and Harden are great friends. They couldn't work together because they weren't sabotaging it. But it's amazing when you get into guys, they're in the prime of their career, guys, and a lot of times very professional. driven. I wouldn't say sabotage, but I wouldn't say they're got your back either.
I don't know. I guess, listen, I'm a very petty person, but if in the end it's going to hurt the whole collective for me not to contribute, then I'm going to do that. Like, things change very quickly.
Oh, that's the golden rule in life.
So
everything changes in life every 6 months. Hopefully not your marriage, but everything else changes.
I mean, change is the only guarantee in life.
That's right.
So if you're not aware that things could flip onto you like that, like, I don't know, I'm sure it happens. I'm glad that he's doing it. I'll say that. And I'm not surprised because that seems to be his personality anyway. So the Rockets have reportedly expanded James Harden trade talks beyond the teams he prefers. Several playoff caliber teams in the East and the West are said to be comfortable including high-level assets in a trade for Harden. They're also less concerned about bringing him in without the assurance that he will re-sign with the team once he becomes a free agent.
Yeah.
So sources are saying that the Rockets have multiple ongoing discussions and have been communicating with Harden about those scenarios.
Philadelphia is obviously the best fit.
It is, but Daryl Morey denied it, said they're not trading Ben Simmons. He's an important part of our future. And listen, like, we love Daryl Morey.
He denies everything.
But I'm also just, it doesn't matter. Like, he has to say that at this point because he can't go out there and say, like, yes, we are actively shopping him and this is what we're looking to do. So, like, what's he supposed to say?
Harden's the kind of talent that could disrupt many good teams. He would absolutely help Philadelphia.
I think he would help Philadelphia.
No question. He's a way better fit. They have an inside-outside game. And by the way, it's an easy guy to trade because Simmons isn't playing well. He's not popular. He doesn't have. It would be hard to trade Embiid in Philly because he's liked. He's great and liked. Simmons is an easy trade piece. He's talented, so you're getting something with him, but he's not popular. His game is stalled, and he doesn't fit. So to me, this is, if I'm Houston, I take Ben Simmons, a bunch of picks, and give me a shooter, and you just...
I also like the East loading up with stars. It's really becoming that.
It's like Nick Wright said, the minute LeBron went west, everybody said, get me out of here.
Well, it might be something to that. But also, obviously, the Heat have been in the conversation for possible trades with James Harden.
Yeah.
Reportedly, Duncan Robinson is a sticking point because they want him, and the Heat don't want to include him in any trades.
I don't blame him. He can hit threes. I don't blame him. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
Senior NFL reporter for Monday Morning Quarterback, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. Albert Breer, as connected as anybody who does this for a living. So, I was saying, when Andrew Luck, when you get a great quarterback, Albert, it creates clarity. Like with Andrew Luck, you knew if he wasn't winning or scoring, you got the wrong coach, the wrong coordinator, or wrong offensive line or GM. I feel that with Herbert, that he makes the game look so easy. It should not look this easy. It didn't look this easy for Tua, for Burrow, for Josh Allen. So the question becomes, they're not winning enough. Does it fall on Anthony Lynn? Will they get a new coach?
I think so. I don't think it's going to happen until the day after the season. If you look at the Spanos' history, they've always liked to take their time on this and make those sorts of decisions with a full season to assess things. It happened that way with Norv Turner. It happened that way with Mike McCoy. And my expectation is going to happen that way again with Anthony Lynn. They're going to take the full season in and then make a decision. But I do think they'll move on. And Colin, it's like you said, like they're going to be moving into a critical time for the franchise. That is a golden opportunity that they're going to have in front of them to build around a quarterback of this level on a rookie contract. We saw how the Rams, the Chiefs, the Eagles took advantage of that sort of dynamic in recent years. So this becomes a very attractive job for whoever the next guy is. And so I think that they're going to hire somebody that's got a quarterback background. And some of the names I've already heard are interesting ones. Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels, Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll. How about this nugget, Colin? He went to high school with the GM of the Chargers, Tom Telesco. And then Panthers offensive coordinator Joe Brady is another name that's got some low-level buzz for that Charger job. Obviously, he's done a great job the last couple of years with quarterbacks, with Joe Burrow last year at LSU, and then, of course, this year with Teddy Bridgewater.
By the way, I don't know if it would happen. I think Mike Zimmer's a really good coach. If it went sideways, my first choice would be Mike Zimmer of the Vikings. We have a history in this league. Star quarterback, defensive coach.
Yeah, that's true.
We do. Have you heard anything on Mike Zimmer? Because I think he's a good coach, but I think he's intense. Some people think he's stubborn. He hasn't won enough.
Yeah.
Would Minnesota make a mistake and get rid of him?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that was on the table at the end of last year.
Yes.
I'm told the extensions that he and Rick Spielman got in Minnesota, the general manager there, those are real extensions.
Okay.
And And Zimmer's making north of $8 million, and he's under contract for the next few years.
Okay.
So in these conditions, Minnesota would have to swallow a lot of cash to get rid of Mike Zimmer. My expectation is that Mike Zimmer is going to survive there and get another year. This is obviously a little bit of a turning the page year, and they have made some progress with some of the young players. There's some young pieces in place now, guys like Justin Jefferson and Jeff Gladney. So my expectation is that Mike Zimmer's going to survive there.
I want to say this about Gruden. I know John and I like him, but Brian Billick and him are both offensive guys. They both win a Super Bowl, but Billick doesn't have the big star personality. Gruden does, and he leverages TV stars into another job. Once again, his team, and this happened in Tampa, it's happened now a couple years, they're bad, they deteriorate. That is generally not the sign of great coaching in the NFL. Is it possible with Gruden he's more media maven than football guru, and that he's okay, but we've overstated his brilliance?
I think he's still a good football coach, Colin. I think the question with him going back 15 years has been handling personnel, developing young players. Like, if you look, like, he had older teams in Oakland the first time around, and then with Tampa, the one he won the Super Bowl with was a very veteran team. He took over from Tony Dungy. Where he's struggled in the past is identifying and developing young talent. And that's what's so interesting about this time around with the Raiders, in that that's what they went all in on. They piled up assets. They traded away Khalil Mack. They traded away Amari Cooper. And they really went all in on going young. And so they've got a very young defensive group now. They've got some youth on the offense. And now it's on Jon Gruden to develop that talent and maximize that young talent. And again, it's a very different looking roster than what he won with when he was at his peak back 20 years ago. And so that's what's so interesting about it. I think that's what the Raiders really have to assess now too, is what sort of job is he doing developing and getting that young talent in a position to win. And again, I don't think he's in any sort of jeopardy right now. This was Mark Davis' white whale, landing him, and the contract is prohibitive, I think, to have to move on from him after this year, especially in these conditions with the pandemic. But I think the questions that you're asking, there are real questions that go back beyond just this tenure with the Raiders.
So the Taysom Hill Drew Brees thing I think is fascinating. So I have theorized this week is I would play Taysom Hill against the Chiefs. Because the Saints aren't going to get a number 1 seed. They're uniquely built to win on the road, unlike most Saints teams. It's about defense, coaching, and they can pound it. And I think I wouldn't let you see Brees, Saints. I want to see Mahomes. You don't get to see us with Brees. And then part of me thinks this morning, flip the telescope around. What they don't want to do is potentially face the Chiefs and let them see any of Taysom Hill for the 12 plays in this. Okay, am I overthinking it on the Brees Taysom Hill stuff?
I think you're getting in your own head a little bit there, Colin. Huh? You took it one way and then you took it another level. I think really this is a team that's in a window right now to compete for a championship. They're way over the cap next year. They're going to have to make some big decisions on certain guys coming out of this year. That 2017 draft class, they got Alvin Kamara signed up, but they're going to have to take care of guys like Ryan Ramczyk and Marshawn Lattimore and Marcus Williams. And so this is really it for this particular group of players. And I think that they got to do everything they can to get in position to try and get home field, and that means getting Drew Brees back on the field. And you say that home field isn't as big a deal, right? Like, and I understand what you're saying, that this style of Saints team is a little different, a little bit more equipped to win in all conditions. Well, the number 1 seed right now is the Green Bay Packers. I actually think the Packers' home field advantage is enhanced by the conditions that we're all in right now. Because can you think of a more miserable place to go play a football game than in the dark, in January, in an empty stadium in Wisconsin? I mean, I look at this, like, I think teams like Buffalo and Green Bay, I'm serious about this, Colin, like I think that their home field advantage is enhanced. Because if you're a team that goes into Green Bay or goes into Buffalo in those conditions, right? And now all of a sudden you maybe fall behind 10 nothing, 14 nothing early on. I mean, that could be a very, very miserable place to try to come back. So I think right now the Saints have to do everything that they possibly can, and I know they are doing everything they possibly can to try and get that number 1 seed back and make the NFC playoffs go through the Superdome. I think the idea of going to Lambeau for anybody right now, especially a team that plays its games indoors, is going to be a tall task come January.
All right, I thought a lot of the Harbaugh, I want to do coaching rumor about a minute of this. So I thought a little of it's funny about college coaches that make a lot of money. Whenever their job's in jeopardy, their name suddenly pops up for NFL jobs as leverage, so I didn't buy the Harbaugh NFL stuff, although I do think he could coach in the NFL, but I thought it was a little gamesmanship and agent stuff. Just New York Jets. Today, what do we feel like here? I don't know. Trevor Lawrence, to me, opens the door to college coaches like a Lincoln Riley in New York.
I don't know that it would be Lincoln Riley. I would keep your eye on Matt Campbell. The old front office presented Matt Campbell's name to ownership 2 years ago when they wound up hiring Adam Gase. Now, if you remember, that Matt Campbell wound up saying no to an interview there, but they went through it. They vetted him. They really liked him. And Christopher Johnson and the guys, in charge in New York have a full idea of what Matt Campbell, the Iowa State coach, can do. And so that's the one name at the college level that seems realistic to me. He's done so much with less at Iowa State. And, Joe Douglas, he made his bones in his road to becoming a general manager on the college scouting trail. So he's got a really, really good understanding of the way things work at that level. And among NFL scouts, there are very few coaches who are more well-respected than Matt Campbell. So if they're going to go down the college road, we've mentioned Jim Harbaugh's name there because Woody Johnson has a little bit of an infatuation with him. Obviously, Joe Douglas worked with Jim Harbaugh's brother in Baltimore. But if we're going to get a little bit more realistic here, I think a name that would be realistic for the Jets might be Matt Campbell.
Good stuff, Albert Breer, Monday morning quarterback. Good seeing you, bud.
Awesome. Thanks, Colin. Have a good weekend.
Blazing 5, I love my picks, top of the hour. And coming up next, Kansas City sits around and watch Justin Herbert. And don't kid yourself. They are aware in Kansas City the value of not having to face Justin Herbert twice a year if the Chargers get the right coach. And I want to talk about that, extrapolate more on that coming up, plus Blazing 5.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Let the whole world sing along. Let the whole world sing along. Let the whole world sing along. Let the whole world sing along.
Hey there, it's Leanne Rhymes. These days it's pretty easy to feel way too overwhelmed and disconnected, not only from each other but ourselves. My new podcast, Holy Human, focuses on living our best, fullest lives by expanding into our most complete and whole selves. I'd love you to join me as I sit down with people who I've found to be some of the world's most inspiring and enlightening motivators, healers, and wise souls. Together, we'll make more sense of this crazy existence we all share, ourselves and each other. Listen and follow Holy Human with me, Leanne Rhymes, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Already know that The Challenge is the most heart-pounding competition show on television. But do you ever wonder how challenge competitors are selected or which challenges were too dangerous for TV? Well, you can learn all that and so much more on MTV's official Challenge podcast. Hosted by your girl Tori and me, Anissa, we're giving you the inside scoop on the brand new season of The Challenge. Let's go, baby. Listen to MTV's official Challenge podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Own or rent a home? Geico makes it easy. Bundle your home and car insurance. Get a quote today, geico.com. Geico.com, Blazing 5, top of the hour, love my picks. Patrick Mahomes is favored to win the Super Bowl. We warn him to not waste opportunities, because when you watch Justin Herbert last night, you're going to face him twice a year. And if they end up getting a coach, a dynamic coach, a Brian Dable, or better, that is an absolute roadblock to winning Super Bowls. And I was thinking about this morning. If you look at the AFC and NFC, and I said, okay, where are the young quarterback stars? I'm not going to count the Bens and the Brees and the Bradys. The young quarterback stars, they're all in the AFC. These are 25 and younger. Josh Allen, Tua. Say what you want about Baker. He's productive when he has a good offensive line. Lamar, Burrow, Deshaun, Patrick Mahomes, Herbert. And I'm going to put Trevor Lawrence on. I believe he's transcendent and succeeds despite the Jets. That's like 8, 9 guys. In the NFC, there's Jared Goff and Kyler Murray. If I'm going to count Baker, I'm going to count Jared Goff, Goff has been better to this point. But the NFC's got a lot of, it's got Aaron's older, and Brady's older, and Brees is older, and Stafford's older, and Matt Ryan's. And so what does this mean? This is the roadblock, the impediment for Patrick Mahomes? I'm not even counting Justin Fields, who's going to end up in Jacksonville, who I think, unless Jacksonville butchers the coaching hire, I think the Jets could hire the wrong coach, and Trevor Lawrence is going to be a Hall of Famer. He's going to be Andrew Luck. He's going to be great. I don't think Justin Fields is that kind of kid. I think he needs the right coach to be great. I don't think he's a Justin Herbert talent. I don't think he's that good. I think he's good. So if they get the right coach, there's another one. Not to mention, all these other quarterbacks could go to AFC, but I won't count that. So the 7 highest passer ratings right now in the NFL for quarterbacks 26 or younger, they're all AFC. This is your roadblock. Okay, I'm not counting in this Joe Burrow, who we love and will be in that. Okay, the deep, dark secret of Tom Brady's success was the bad quarterback play in his division. So he always won his division, he got a bye, and then played a low seed at home in Foxborough, and if he won the game, he was in the conference championship. That is why I love Tom. Tommy's got a 500 playoff road record. It's a whole different ballgame going on the road facing good quarterbacks, Peyton Manning, Big Ben. This is the secret, and I love Aaron Rodgers. But one of the great advantages to Aaron Rodgers, since he was named the starter, the Vikings have had 14 quarterbacks. The Bears have had 14 quarterbacks. And it feels like Matt Stafford's talented, but he's had 14 head coaches, it feels like. That is a big advantage. Aaron gets a bye. Aaron plays at Lambeau. It's cold weather. He's used to it. Just has to win a playoff game, and he's in the conference championship. He's done that less than Brady. But this is the big secret to all this stuff. Is that I've always said this. Part of Nick Saban's success is, most of his time, LSU can't get the coach right, Tennessee can't get the coach right, Auburn can't get the coach right, Florida finally has the coach right, because Urban Meyer left and they ran through guys. When Pete Carroll was crushing it at USC, only Cal had the right coach. Washington had the wrong guy, UCLA was a mess, Stanford had a bad coach. The minute Oregon got chipped Kelly and Harbaugh went to Stanford, Pete Carroll started losing. You need breaks for this. I've said before, one of the great breaks of Michael Jordan is in hockey, Chicago is in the West. But in the NBA, Chicago's in the East. He didn't have to go through Magic in his prime for years. He didn't have to. He didn't have to go through a lot of the... When he was going against the Pistons in their prime, he couldn't beat them. Going against the Celtics in their prime, he couldn't beat them. They got old. So sometimes, and I'm not saying Michael wouldn't have been the best player of all time. I'm saying there are geographical advantages. There are divisional advantages. Mahomes, Herbert's a baby and may not have the right coach now. But if you start looking at over the next 10 years, Mahomes is going to face significantly better quarterbacks than a guy like Aaron Rodgers or a young guy like Jared Goff is going to face, because Brady's going to be around for a couple of years. Now Brees is gone, but Matt Ryan, Stafford, there's a lot. NFC's got a lot of quarterbacks that are good, not great, and they're expensive, and teams are tied to them. So it is amazing. The 7 highest passer ratings in the NFL right now, 26 or younger, all AFC. And Burrow's coming back, and here comes Trevor Lawrence. So it's a disruptor. It is in the way. Greatness generally happens. Part of it's you, and half of it is people around you screwing up. Nobody's that smart. All right, Blazing 5, hour 2 on the way, live in Los Angeles on a Friday. This is The Herd.
It's pretty easy these days to feel disconnected. We're pulled in so many different directions, and that can leave us feeling incredibly fragmented. But together, we can grow more connected to ourselves and to each other. And that is what my new podcast is all about, coming home to our wholeness. Listen and follow Holy Human with me, Leanne Rhymes, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
My name is Jamie Loftus, and I'm here to tell you about my new show, Lolita Podcast. Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov is one of the most controversial works of all time, and our culture has done its protagonist a huge disservice over the years. I've spent the last few months getting to the bottom of how America turned this abused young girl into a sex symbol, and what that says about us. New episodes drop weekly on Mondays. Listen to Lolita Podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Williams, and I'm so excited to launch my brand new podcast with you. Checking in with Michelle Williams, where my guests and I get real as we share the ups and downs of our mental health journeys, and I'd love for you to join me. This is going to be your church, your turn up, and everything in between. Listen to Checking In with Michelle Williams on December 22nd on The Black Effect on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
My name is Jamie Loftus, and I'm here to tell you about my new show, Lolita Podcast. Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov is one of the most controversial works of all time, and our culture has done its protagonist a huge disservice over the years. I've spent the last few months getting to the bottom of how America turned this abused young girl into a sex symbol, and what that says about us. New episodes drop weekly on Mondays. Listen to Lolita Podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Thanks for listening to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Oh, it's hour 2. It's a Friday. It is an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. Fox Sports Radio, iHeartRadio, FS1. It's nice to have you in today. I didn't wear a T-shirt. I'm a little off. I usually have a Tommy John T-shirt on, and this morning I was rushed, doing a lot today. My life is a lot of stuff going on, very frenetic these days. I didn't have time, so I don't have a T-shirt. I'm a little chilly and I'm sweating. It's just not working for me right now.
They can bring you one up here.
You know what? My job sometimes is to overcome me. So I'm going to overcome me.
You have no idea how many times I've had to go into the back of the studio and I've come out here with my dress on inside out.
Really?
Yes, it was inside out the other day actually. I didn't notice until I got on set. I've done an entire show with my dress on inside out and backwards before. So
maybe you need to go into the woods and reflect on your life.
I mean, it happens. There's a lot going on. Zippers and...
Yeah, I get it. All odds prevented by Fox Bet. It's time for our Blazing 5 awful winning week. Back-to-back winning weeks. Here we go.
Let's blaze it off. Fire it up. It's Colin's Blazing 5. Bills and Broncos.
I'm going to take Denver +6. I am concerned about their injuries at cornerback, but this is a perfect letdown spot for Buffalo. Josh Allen, first trip to Mile High. The Bills have been in several big emotional wins. Now they go west, second cross-country trip in the last few weeks. Denver has a really good defensive coach, and Josh Allen can make mistakes. They're top 10 in everything that matters. Top 2 in pass touchdowns allowed, top 7 in sacks. Drew Lock, last couple of weeks, appears to have at least stabilized. Don't love him, but he's stabilized. And the Broncos, by the way, second best against the spread bet in the league to Miami. I think Buffalo, so well coached, probably figures out a way to win, but I'm taking the points with Denver, 26-23 Bills.
Patriots and Dolphins.
Everybody, I'm going to take Miami -1.5. Here's what I hear. What about Tua against Belichick? What about Cam Newton against this defense, which is to me the first or second best defense in the NFL? Miami is second in points per game, first in takeaways, third down first, passer rating third. What about Cam? No weapons and that. Listen, Brian Flores is the perfect coach for Tua in this game because young quarterbacks struggle with Belichick. Flores is going to go, kid, I was with him for 7 years. This is what you're going to see. And Tua doesn't make mistakes. Now, he may not have the talent of a Josh Allen or a Joe Burrow or Herbert, but he doesn't make any mistakes. 9 TDs, 1 pick this year. He's very safe. I get a better team. I get a better defense. I get a great young coach. I get a team playing for more. Miami wins this game 24-20. We all know the Patriots stink late in the year at Miami.
Seahawks and Washington.
I'm going to take Washington. The line's moved a bit here. I'll take Washington +5.5. Seahawks last 9 games have covered the spread 3 times. Why? They're overvalued. Their offensive line is the weak point, and the defensive line for Washington is the strength. I think this game ugly. I think this game is also about Ron Rivera. Early in the year, he was taking cancer treatments, energy. It was different. He's out of that. He's more robust and dynamic. This team is now in a 4-game winning streak, and during that streak, they're number 1 in the league in point differential. They're number 2 in turnover differential. Ron Rivera is now working. Folks, in his 4-game winning streak, they're allowing 14 a game. They've also got 4 players with 5 sacks. It's not just Chase Young. I think the Washington defensive front against Seattle's ultimate liability makes for a low-scoring, very ugly game. Again, Russell Wilson tends to figure out a way to win these games on the East Coast late. Seattle wins 21-20, but I like Washington and the points here.
Eagles and Cardinals.
I told you last week, bet less on the Giants-Arizona. That was my least favorite pick. That's right, I was wrong on that. This is my least favorite pick. So bet less. But I'm going to take Arizona minus 6.5 at home against Philadelphia. Here's why. If you look at what Philadelphia did last week to New Orleans, the Saints were guessing. They had no idea what they were going to get. Arizona knows exactly what they're going to get with Jalen Hurts because they see it every day at practice. It's a better version. It's called Kyler Murray. They're very used to practicing and seeing a highly athletic quarterback. By the way, Philadelphia allows quarterbacks that run to have success. Philadelphia's defense has 4 picks all year. Translation, Kyler Murray will be comfortable. Vegas likes Philadelphia, but I think an Arizona team, it's very Arizona is becoming easy to predict. When Kyler's healthy and can run, they beat the Bills. They're good. They dominated the Giants. Kyler's healthy. He's going to be moving. I like him here against Philadelphia to win and cover. 28-20.
Chiefs at Saints.
Like it. I love it. Saints is my bet of the week. Now, the line's going to be all over the place. I bet it Monday. I got the Saints at 4. Brees is now the starter. The number will probably come crashing down, and you won't get the number I got, but I got Saints plus 3.5, and I love the pick. First of all, right now, the Chiefs' red zone defense is not good. The Chiefs' red zone offense is not good. Buffalo's is, by the way. What does that tell me? Is that the Chiefs are allowing touchdowns, not field goals, on defense, and they're scoring more field goals than touchdown on offense. I think the Saints defense is one of 2, the Rams the other, allowing less than 300 yards a game. This Saints defense is really the story of this team. It's not Peyton. It's not Brees. This is a great roster and a great defense, and Drew Brees was always ready to play this week. Kansas City was preparing for Taysom Hill. Not going to play. I like the Saints still fighting for the number 1 seed to win it. 28-27. There you go, my Blazing 5. All of our Blazing 5 picks. Check out the Fox Bet social platforms. So I've got underdog Denver, underdog Washington, underdog New Orleans, Arizona, and Miami. All week I keep hearing, what about 2 in Belichick? What about Cam with no weapons? At least 2 has got weapons. How about Cam with no weapons against Flores? And for the record, I don't have the numbers on me. Through the years, Belichick, remember Matt Patricia beat him one time. Belichick against his assistants. Now, his assistants don't always crush, but some of his assistants have done pretty well because they know a little bit of the secret sauce. So I saw this. This is a tweet by Chris Mortensen, who's a great guy, Mort Report. He says, one NFC general manager made an observation after the Charger game with the Raiders last night. And the observations were, according to Mortensen, according to the NFC GM, the Chargers have a superstar at quarterback with Herbert. Anthony Lynn should remain the coach. He won 12 games 2 years ago. Don't overreact to Anthony Lynn. You can make that argument. And number 3, Marcus Mariota looks like an NFL starter. Okay. And I knew we were going to get this morning. I'm driving in. I know this is a topic. Marcus Mariota has a quality I do not know if you can coach out of people. Carson Wentz has it. Sam Darnold has it. He's reckless. He is truly fast. He is big 6'4". He's a playmaker, but he's a little bit the definition of a tease. His first NFL start, he had a perfect passer rating, 4 TDs, no picks. End of the year, he was 3-9 and only played 12 games. You know, you've gone on a date before. The first date, you fall in love. The second date, you're like, I like him, but he's a little cray-cray. Third date, halfway through, check, please. He's a tease. He is big, and he's dynamic, and he's strong, and he's fast, and he's reckless. He got smoked 3 times last night. Lamar Jackson, we all freak out. He's going to get hurt. He rarely gets hit. Russell Wilson never gets hit. Kyler Murray never gets hit. Jalen Hurt slides. No. Marcus Mariota doesn't slide. He's Carson Wentz. He puts his head down, runs over you. That's what 6'4", 6'5" guys do. Because they ran over guys in high school. They ran over guys in college. And now you're like, be finesse, slow down. Kyler Murray and Russell have always been small. Jalen Hurts has always been small. They run and they know, I don't want to get a hit by a guy who can bench press Delaware, 38 pounds heavier, 4 inches taller. But when you get these big athletes, Carson Wentz is big. Josh Allen's big. Mariota's big. Slide? Bro, I was the biggest guy on my high school team. I was the best athlete in my college team. They don't slide. Marcus doesn't. Did you see last night? Like 4 times he got popped. The other thing is, he's a reckless quarterback. He's physically reckless. I like him. I like Wentz. I like Darnold. I don't think you can teach reckless out of people. His TD interception ratio in his career is 77 touchdowns, 45 picks. And you're like, that's not good. Oh, no, it's worse. If you take out 1 year, he had 1 good year. It's 32 touchdowns, 26 picks. He's reckless. He's reckless as a thrower. He had a couple throws last night. You're wincing. So he's a reckless runner. He's a big athlete. And these big athletes, they run over people in high school and college. And then you get them to the NFL, and you're asking Carson Wentz, who was probably the biggest kid in his high school, and then he goes to North Dakota and he's 6'5", 240, and the DBs are 5'9 and a half, 1, and you're asking him, hey, just slide. Like, slide? You're going to tell Josh Allen to slide? Big Ben, Cam, what did they do? They wouldn't slide. Their sensibility is slide. I'm the biggest guy on the football team. Russell slides, Hurts slides, small guys slide, Kyler slides. So I think he's a reckless player, but he is. You see glimpses of him, and he's electric. He is big, and he is fast. He's not Lamar fast. He may be the second fastest quarterback in the league. If you put him in a sprint with Russell Wilson or Kyler, I think he's faster. He is a big, fast, electric playmaking athlete. But, so I watched this last night, and I'm like, just go look at the data. Go look at the numbers. The less you see, the more you like. The more you see, the less you like. And I'm rooting for him. Jon Gruden after the game. I mean, first of all, I do think Marcus is the most talented backup in the league. And I do think in a pinch, you could start him for a season. I mean, if you knew you were going to draft somebody or develop somebody, you could use him for a season. I'm not saying he wouldn't win any games, but he wouldn't play all 16. He'd get hurt. That's his history, Gruden after.
I mean, it just shows the kind of player, kind of football character he has. I mean, our offensive coordinator isn't here either. You lose Derek, and then we changed gears offensively, and Marcus came in and did a great job. And really proud of him. I think that just kind of puts an exclamation point on why we signed him, and just wish we could have won the game for him.
You know, yesterday Greg Cosell talked about this on the show. You can correct a lot of stuff with the quarterback. Josh Allen's throwing motion is much more compact. Drew Lock in the last couple of weeks has stabilized. You can. There's certain things you can get out of guys. You know, play with more urgency, less casual play. I'm not sure you can get. I mean, and I say this because the kids I went to high school and college with that are reckless have been reckless adults. Like sometimes you grow up with brothers and you're wrestling on the couch, and it's just who you are. You drink instead of 4 beers at a party, you drink 7. Instead of, driving a little over the speed limit, you're always a little more than you should be over the speed limit. You ski, and about every 3rd year, you rip your body up skiing. Like, reckless, it's almost like a DNA genetic thing. It's hard to coach people out of reckless. I don't know if you can. Maybe you can, I don't know. But that's what I see with Mariota and Wentz and Darnold. And there's parts of all of them. I mean, you know how much I like Darnold. I watch him now. I'm like, Sam, you're not a linebacker. At Ocean Heights High School, you can't put your head down and run head first into a pile. This is the NFL. You can't do it. Former Patriot quarterback Matt Cassel's now doing some media. His thoughts on what's going on New England, what he saw last night, as we move to the middle part of our show in hour number 2.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Nearly 600 years after the invention of the printing press, the most important book in the history of the world has arrived.
That might be overstating things.
Stuff You Should Know, an incomplete compendium of mostly interesting things. It will change your life forever.
Well, that's not necessarily true.
Most scientists agree that Stuff You Should Know, an incomplete compendium of mostly interesting things, is proof that time travel is possible, because that is the only way to explain how a book this impressive was possibly made.
What?
Stuff You Should Know, an incomplete compendium of mostly interesting things, will regrow hair, whiten your teeth, and improve your love life.
That's just not at all right.
Well, the love life part, maybe, if you find someone who thinks smart is sexy.
Stuff You Should Know, an incomplete compendium of mostly interesting things. Available now at stuffyoushouldknow.com and everywhere you buy books.
Now that is true.
Are you dealing with best life burnout, constantly striving for more, and quite frankly, over it? Maybe you just want more joy, peace, and laughter in your life now. Well then let's go. Welcome to your new favorite podcast, Hot Happy Mess, hosted by me, your girl, Zuri Hall. Join us each week as we discuss dating, relationships, self-care, career wins and losses, and so much more. Oh, and moments like this. You know what? Sometimes the grass is greener on the other side because it's fake.
Well, that's why I mentioned muting. There are some people who will check you.
Oh, we got some petty people in our lives. I was crying by the water because I was happy.
And I do love a clear.
Wine will be spilled, laughs will be had, and a few tears might be shed. Messes will be made, but we're gonna find our magic in the middle of them. Don't miss new episodes every Monday. Find Hot Happy Mess on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Tonight, it's the Pac-12 Championship as Oregon takes on number 13 USC. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Then tomorrow, 4th-ranked Ohio State looks to secure a spot in the college football playoff against number 14 Northwestern in Big Ten Championship at noon Eastern. Both games are available only on Fox and the Fox Sports app.
The Ohio State game with Northwestern, I have a feel for it. I've watched every play from USC this year, and I don't know if they're any good, and they're undefeated. They have a terrific young quarterback. They have recruited the wide receiver position exceedingly well. So what USC does is they get outplayed, and then it becomes a shootout, and they just have better players. So my take tonight is Oregon takes a lead, and USC ends up winning in the end because Oregon you don't want to get into a shootout with USC because they are really good at quarterback and wide receiver. Our next guest is really interesting. I wanted to talk to him for a while. Matt Cassel played in the NFL for 12 years. He backed up Carson Palmer, Tom Brady, Tony Romo, Matt Stafford, Marcus Mariota. He has a great understanding of the game. He now works for NBC Sports in Boston. He's doing some Sirius XM stuff, and he is now joining us live. You've got so many unique experiences. And of all the quarterbacks that you were around, Carson Palmer, to me, probably is the one guy, he looked like a quarterback. He was a five-star guy. And I watched Justin Herbert, Matt, and I said this earlier. Listen, even if you're good as a rookie, it shouldn't look this easy. To me, he looks like Andrew Luck with a better arm. I'm kind of blown away with him. No preseason. When you see him, what do you see with Herbert?
Right, I'm fascinated about this young man, and he's got an incredible arm. He's got all the intangibles and the tangibles. I mean, it explodes off his hand. But not only that, I mean, what's most impressive about this guy, and it started early, is when they said that he was going to start, Tyrod Taylor gets the unfortunate injury to his lung, and they come up to him right before the game and say, hey, young man, you're going to go out and play today, right? And he probably wasn't getting a lot of valuable reps at that point. And also, by the way, you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, who are the reigning Super Bowl champions. Right. Go out there and, give it a whirl. And he went and took that team up and down the field. He performed really well. They had to go to overtime for the Kansas City Chiefs to eventually beat him. But from that point on, the composure, the maturity that he's shown, the ability to go through his progression, the vision that he has, the toughness, and his ability to run the football, too. A lot of people don't talk about that because he's such a good pocket passer, but he can make plays with legs. So he's been outstanding all year, and it's hard to imagine that this kid can continue to get better, but he just continues to get better week in and week out, and it's a really, really exciting for the NFL and just for any Charger fan right now watching this team. He's just an outstanding player.
Yeah, like as you pointed out, his demeanor in his first start, Joey and I watched that. We're like, he should have been just a nervous wreck, and he apparently just laughed, smiled, and let's take on Patrick Mahomes. Now, the Brady situation is interesting. So you, a little bit, were the opposite of Brady. You were very mobile in your career. You played in multiple systems. But we asked Tom Brady, who played in one, to go new city, no preseason, new players, new system, new coaches. I mean, it's hard, Matt, when you get a new coordinator. Everything for Tom is new. Has he over-delivered to you? Like, tell me the experience when you get into a team and how difficult it can be.
Oh, it's very difficult, especially when you go to a new team, new city. Not only that, you just have to get comfortable with your personnel, the people that you're around, and normally you can start to establish that during off season. You know, in any normal off season, when you have OTAs, you have mini camps, you're around the guys, but this season, obviously, with COVID and everything else going on, you didn't have that opportunity. So, of course, you're doing Zoom meetings, and I'm sure that there was a lot of great discussions that took place, but until you actually get out on the field and start seeing how some of these routes develop, you know, what's being asked of you, how they like to call plays, they didn't have preseason either, so you don't get into a rhythm with your play caller. So, really, you start at square one when you get to week one of the football season. So, you're kind of learning on the fly, you're learning on the go, you're starting to understand how he likes to call a game, your coordinator with Brian Leftwich and Bruce Arians. So, it's going to take time to adjust to that. And I think he's done a remarkable job. Honestly, they've lost 5 games, 2 of them to New Orleans. They've lost to Rams, who's a very good team. I mean, these are good football teams with good defenses, and you're going to have to play your best football to beat teams like that. And so he's had his struggles at times with the deep ball, but he's been deadly accurate in anything 20 yards or under. He's been taking care of the football for most part of the season. He's limited the number of sacks. He knows when to get rid of the ball. I mean, so it's a process, and everybody has a microscope on Brady, deservedly so, because this is his first team that he's been, first year out of the New England system in the last 20 years with all these weapons, and everybody's expectation is just, hey, there is going to be no issues. There's going to be no problems. But the fact of the matter is, there is continued growth every single time he steps on that field.
You know, it's interesting. We were talking about this. In the NBA, there's an understanding. There's an alpha, there's a dog, there's a star. You let him be a star, and you find complementary pieces that can play with a Shaq or a LeBron. That's understood. In the NFL, nobody's going to give Carson Wentz, the expensive star quarterback, a break, even though Nick Foles, Jalen Hurts, second round, he's asked every week, and we're like, hey, just deal with it. And I do think it's tough to get benched and to get a quarterback. You're not an old guy. You're a young guy. You're the future, and they draft a quarterback in the second round. And I don't think he needs to be babysat, right? But I do think Philadelphia is a harsh town. The criticism's intense. I think a lot of this stuff. I mean, you were a backup to a lot of quarterbacks. Do you have to be careful about sometimes making sure the starter knows he's a starter, and there are some sensitive kind of moments in that relationship?
There is. You have to give confidence to your starter. At the same time, you know, at the end of the day, for Wentz in particular, his performance was the issue, and they had to do something at that position. I mean, he was leading the league in interceptions. He also had multiple fumbles, and so he was hurting his team, and they gave him every opportunity to give him confidence, and Doug Peterson was behind him the entire time, you know, saying he's our starter, he's our guy, we're going to get better. They obviously had a lot of offensive line issues that you can point to, the wide receiver position, but at the end of the day, you are the focal point, and if you don't take care of the football and put your team into a bad situation where you can't win football games because you're turning over the ball, well, then it's inevitable that they're going to make a switch and give another guy an opportunity and see if he can do better.
Yeah. I want you know the New England system, you know Brady. So right now, for the next 5 years, if Belichick coaches 5 more years, he's going to face Josh Allen twice a year. He's going to face Tua twice a year. He could possibly face Trevor Lawrence twice a year. Okay, that's no good. That's a lot of talent, and you know this. One of the advantages for Brady over the years is he faced a lot of quarterbacks that didn't last, and then you got the best coach, you got that. So I look at New England, and I'm like, Belichick's got a plan for everything. In New sprain? Do you think he goes and gets a Stafford or a Garoppolo, as he's older maybe? Or do you think he wants the juice and to be re-energized with a college kid? Maybe Cam gets another year, but Cam's not performing at a high level. Where do you think Belichick goes, Matt, this point forward, next 5 years?
Yeah, you brought up a good name, Matt Stafford. If he's there, I mean, he's a guy that I played with. He's got an incredible football IQ. He's a great leader. He can make all the throws, and he's been in a city there that just hasn't been able to win ball games. But at the same time, a guy that come in and start to help you win right away and be competitive in a league, in a division, that had all those quarterbacks that you just talked about. He's a guy, Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously they have familiarity with him. He's somebody that they have confidence in and would love to have him come back if San Francisco decides to get rid of him. But when you look at the free agency market, really at the quarterback position right now, you're talking about veterans, you talk about guys like Marcus Mariota, you talk about Mitch Trubisky, you talk about guys like that. And I don't know if those are great fits for this system. And then at the same time, you also can look to the draft. Right now, though, they're drafting at 16. Right, and that means the Trevor Lawrence's, the Justin Fields, the Zach Wilsons are probably not going to be there in that point in the draft. So is it worth taking a risk? And we know the history of Bill Belichick. He'd rather trade down, get more draft capital than trade up and try to go after a guy that you don't know and maybe is a question mark for you at the quarterback position. But the quarterback position is going to be pivotal for this team moving forward to be successful. They got to get back on track. And look, when you talked about Cam Newton, this whole season's not all on Cam Newton. When you're evaluating the lack of weapons on the outside, Demir Bird, Jacoby Myers are playing, but Julian Edelman's been out. Their tight ends, they haven't had much production. They've only 14 catches amongst their tight ends, zero TD receptions. Their offensive lines are strength. Their run games are strength. Cam's definitely stepped up in the run game. But overall, it's not the offense that we're used to seeing with Brady. They're not able to spread it out, get into different personnel groups. They're really primarily in 21 personnel, which is two-back formation, two wide receiver. Yeah. It's very simplistic. So hopefully moving forward, though, they've got a lot of different concerns other than just the quarterback position.
Yeah, you did play with Matty Stafford. Matt Cassel, great having you on Sirius XM NBC Sports Boston. Love to have you on again, bud. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You bet. He's a Manhattan Beach guy, too. Yeah. A lot of people leaving California. Joy with the news.
No. Herd on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Well, Drew Brees is expected to start on Sunday against the Chiefs. He reportedly took the majority of the first-team reps when he returned to practice this week and has not been feeling any pain. The team believes he is fully healthy, and doctors have cleared him to play. So, he will likely be starting against the Chiefs. Now, Taysom Hill in 4 starts was 3-1, had a 71.9 completion percentage, 834 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He also rushed for 209 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. The remaining schedule for the Saints is the Chiefs, Vikings, and at the Panthers.
Those are not easy games. I think they'll win all of them, but this is in my opinion, best roster in the league, and this says that Sean Payton wants to get the number 1 seed. That's what he's saying.
Well, there's only one this year for the AFC and NFC, and it's going to be crucial. This has been a really rough year. Obviously, the bye is nice in any year. You prefer to not have to play an extra game and get your guys healthy. But I think especially in this particular season, the constant emotion and anxiety of dealing with COVID every single day and testing every single day and all the added stresses of just this entire year, having a week off is going to be really nice for these guys on top of getting healthy. And, they're not necessarily a young team either. So, yeah, they definitely want that. Now, the Packers have the number 1 seed right now. But I don't mind Drew Brees coming back if he feels healthy. He's had 4 games off. He had 5 games off last season. And Taysom Hill has a ceiling. And you want to win those games. It's important to get that bye. Now, if he comes back, obviously, and gets banged up again, then that's going to be a bad situation. But you can't play like that. Like, if he's healthy, he's your starting quarterback. He needs to be out there. So Kyrie Irving caused quite a stir, a little bit of controversy when he refused to speak to reporters during Nets Media Week. He finally gave an interview on Monday and tried to explain the reasoning behind his silence. But Charles Barkley is not happy with Kyrie and did not hold back when he was discussing his recent behavior.
I'm not sure what point Kyrie is trying to make. And when he talks, I'm like, what is he saying? to say. He starts talking about what an artist he is. He's a basketball player. That's what he is. We're not frontline responders. We're not teachers. Man, you dribble a basketball. Stop acting like you're the smartest person in the world. Well, first of all, you only went to college for 6 months. A lot of guys are smarter than you are. Just answer stupid basketball questions.
This really splits people, Kyrie's comments. I personally don't. Now listen, you signed a contract. So at the end of the day, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, you have to talk to the media. It's been negotiated by you.
Yes, you can choose not to sign that contract.
Or pay the fine for not talking.
Or pay the fine.
Whatever you
but
want
you can't act surprised when things that you agreed to in your contract are held up by the people who you signed a contract with. I will say, I've had a lot of discussions with players over the past week about this. I don't think players should have to talk to the media. I don't think it should be a requirement. There's always going to be guys in the locker room who want to talk to the media or who are willing to talk to the media. If you have a bad game and you're not feeling it and you don't want to talk to the media, you're having a bad month, or you just straight up don't want to talk to the media and you're Kyrie Irving, I don't think you should have to.
Well, I don't have to be nice to people, but I do think to lubricate society, I do stuff every day because it's just a nicer thing to do. Just be accommodating for...
Oh, no, I think he should.
Yeah.
He absolutely should.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you should be... And it should be negotiated, but I think the coach should always have to talk to the media.
Yeah.
I don't think the players should have to. It's not going to bother me either way. I'm in the media, but here's the thing. Every action has consequences. So if you choose not to talk to the media, then the media is just going to report what they see. The media would like to ask you, at this particular point in the game, what was going on here? Or it seemed like you had a little bit of an issue with this at this point in the game. What was going on there? Yes, the media asks ridiculous questions you don't want to answer from time to time. Yes, we can be obnoxious. Yes, we're going to be critical. You're in the spotlight. My thing with Kyrie is, just like every action has consequences, you've chosen to pursue a career where you are a public figure. And being a public figure, that comes with certain responsibilities, and it comes with just a reality of people want to talk about you. They're interested in you. Part of the fact that people are interested in you is what leads to endorsements, which leads to money. Like, there's things that surround what you do. I get what Charles is saying. I mean, to answer the basketball questions, it seems simple.
Well, I think... Yeah, I mean, when you say the world's flat, I'm going to move off. You're the smartest guy in the room, but I'm not going to take shots at him. But I think Kyrie sometimes is trying too hard. I think just accommodate people. It's just a nicer way to live. It's better for society. It's better for you. It's better for everybody. Just talk to people.
Well,
LeBron does. Michael did. Magic did. And LeBron is so gracious. It doesn't matter if he's in Sacramento and it's a Cub reporter. He goes right over there to give him the time of day. It takes him a minute.
It goes a long way. I think the idea is that now, because there's social media, players don't necessarily have to use the media to get messaging out. But the reality is, all of the media follows your social media, and they're just going to react to what you put on your social media. So it doesn't eliminate it anyway. So the NBA has launched an investigation surrounding the Clippers' acquisition of Kawhi Leonard. According to a recently filed lawsuit, the Clippers and the team and team consultant Jerry West are being accused of agreeing to pay a man close with Kawhi named Johnny Wilkes to help them sign the free agents. So he claims the Clippers never fulfilled their end of the agreements. Both the Clippers and Jerry West have denied allegations, and Kawhi responded to the lawsuit and whether Wilkes played any role in his decision to join the team.
Not at all. That has nothing to do with me. It's like my mind goes somewhere. So, I'm from LA, and I grew up here my whole life, and out here, people try to, find any way to get some money. So, it probably won't be the last. I know a lot of people out here.
I don't buy this story at all. If Jerry West did that, he'd be smart enough to pay him off so the guy didn't talk. Okay, so A. Secondly, you think you're going to tell strong-willed Kawhi Leonard, who pushed back on Greg Popovich, you got a buddy that's going to convince Kawhi to come. Nothing about this story. This seems like somebody trying to get money out of somebody. That's all this seems like to me.
Jerry West
is going to...
Do you know who Jerry West is?
It's just a bunch of nonsense. If Jerry West did this, you'd pay the guy $100,000 Jerry West is worth blankety blank
I mean,
tens
forget
of
that.
millions.
You feel like there's anyone in the sports world who Jerry West doesn't pick up the phone and call, and they don't immediately give him whatever number he's asking for. Like before they got the phone, like, oh yes, Mr. West, whatever it is that you need.
This is a non-story story.
Yes, it's a story because obviously it's LA.
I don't buy
Jerry West,
anything.
no, me either.
You're going to convince Kawhi. Somebody's going to convince Kawhi to come to LA. Greg Popovich couldn't convince him to play.
I mean, and that's just like an absurd amount of money. Yeah, it's just not. No.
Joy with the news?
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Live
Eric
News.
Mangini coming up next. By the way, new streaming service Discovery Plus starts next year. Exclusive originals and things you've loved like the Food Network starts in 2021. Discovery Plus, it's the Herd.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Ever wondered why there are two ways to spell donuts? Or why some people think you can find water underground just by wandering around with a stick? Believe it or not, this is stuff you should know. You Know the podcast with over 1 billion listens. It's now for your eyes, so you can read it. Stuff You Should Know, an incomplete compendium of mostly interesting things, covers everything from the origin of the Murphy bed to why people get lost. Become the most interesting person you know now at StuffYouShouldKnow.com or wherever books are sold.
Do you ever think about how you're gonna die? I think I'm going to choke to death, specifically on a Cool Ranch Dorito.
I'm definitely slipping in the shower. I'm for sure gonna die taking a selfie. Anyway.
Hey, I'm Gabby.
I'm Taylor. I'm Nika.
And we're the hosts of a new podcast called
Cadaver Gals. We're just three fun and flirty gals talking about all the fun and flirty ways that people expire.
Like how 3 people died because of a poodle.
And how you shouldn't trust your ex-boyfriend to help you get rid of a body.
We'll also find out about all of Nika's boyfriends.
That is untrue, and we will find out that Taylor's a horse girl. And Gabby is...
the best one.
Okay, Gabby. Basically, this podcast is kind of like Sex in the City if they only talked about dead people. Join us as we laugh, but mostly cry, in the face of death. We'll also learn how to grow as people through the power of friendship.
So listen to Cadaver Gals for your weekly dose of chaos.
Cadaver Gals is a production of School of Humans and iHeartRadio. New episodes out on Wednesdays.
Listen to Cadaver Gals on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Eric Mangini, 3 rings with the Patriots, Browns. Jets head coach is joining me now live on a Friday. Let's not waste any time. All right, Jon Gruden. I think he's a good coach, but once again, this is 3rd or 4th time in his career, his teams deteriorate in December. I mean, Eric, that's not what Andy Reid's team, Sean Payton, Belichick. Be careful. What does that tell you?
It doesn't make a lot of sense. And I was actually reading an article this past, I think it was August, out of an Oakland newspaper that talked about the fact that they needed to be better in December if this team was going to be different than last year. And last year was the same deal. They were 6-4 and struggled late. And I think he's only had 3 winning seasons in December. And I'm sure, look, John's pretty self-aware in terms of trying to fix problems. To have that pattern over and over again, sometimes you look at it and you think maybe you're driving the team too hard. Sometimes it's a function of having a team that's too old. Maybe it's the relationship that he has with his quarterbacks. He's retooled this team. I think there's 6 guys left from when he got there, but the piece that he hasn't retooled is the quarterback spot. And he gushed over Mariota when he came in. He always has multiple quarterbacks on the roster going into training camp. Maybe a change in the relationship with Carr and a fresh start with someone like Mariota. Maybe that's something that can help him. His guy.
Yeah, Mariota has always been a reckless player to me. He gets hurt a lot, and I have this theory that when you're 6'4", you're 225 in high school and college, you can run over people, and that's hard to coach out of people. Carson Wentz, big. They don't want to duck. Russell Wilson and Murray, they slide. They've always been small guys. Would you give Mariota a chance to? Do you think he's an NFL starter?
Yeah, I think a lot of guys do better with their second chance, and Marcus Mariota is a guy who came in at 2nd overall draft pick, high expectations. Didn't achieve at the level that they thought he would in Tennessee. But who replaced him? Ryan Tannehill, who people felt underachieved in Miami. And there's a lot of history of quarterbacks doing better in a new spot. You look at, Kurt Warner's a guy that wasn't even found and was playing in arena football. Steve Young didn't win for his first 7 years. Jim Harbaugh was better in Indianapolis than he was in Oakland. Alex Smith. So until you give these guys a second shot, I don't like to write them off.
Breeze instead of Taysom Hill. Why not just give the Chiefs, who you could play later in the year at the Super Bowl, why not give them 3.5 hours of Taysom Hill? Don't give them any Drew Brees. Just throw quirky stuff out there for them to have to work and study. Why rush Brees back?
Well, this is a borderline playoff game. They're trying to maintain and have the number one seed. So you're going to do that with the best possible player you can have. And if anything, these guys should understand that looking past an opponent has been a huge problem. You know, they've been guilty of it a little bit in the past. And my experience, the first time we won the Super Bowl, we had a chance to play the Rams early in the season, and that was huge. It was huge from a coaching perspective. It was huge for our players because you're not looking at a team going, who are these guys? You know who they are, and now you're at a different level of understanding what you can do, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and you'd want your starting quarterback to be able to have that opportunity.
Yeah. So I saw Peter King mention it this week. Peter King mentions something this week, and it was beyond rumor. It made sense. Patriots have cap space. Patriots probably don't get a top 3 college quarterback. Cam doesn't appear to be working. Matt Stafford, who has he's got money, he's got stats. He doesn't have wins. He wants to win games. Does Stafford and Belichick to you make some sense?
Yeah, it makes some sense. One of the greatest things that Bill does is bring in free agents. The draft record, you could argue, isn't as good as it should be, and isn't as strong as an indicator of their success as what he does in free agency. And the great thing about free agency is you get to look at it with like tape, and you understand who the guy is playing against. And with Matthew Stafford, Bill's played against him a bunch of times, so he appreciates the problems that he creates. He played for Jim Schwartz. Bill has a good relationship with Jim Schwartz. He's going to understand who the player is. So if Stafford makes sense from a culture fit, from a being able to pick up the system fit, I think there's a good chance of that. Now, Matt Patricia. Bill's got a great relationship with Matt Patricia. He'll be able to tell Bill everything about Stafford from a personality standpoint.
With 1 minute, Justin Herbert, your thoughts? He looked good to me.
He looks really good, and he's impressive in a lot of ways. He obviously tied the rookie quarterback record, and all that being said, I like to just slow down people's enthusiasm. We're so quick to annoy people, and I get caught up with it a little bit too because of some of the impressive things that he's done. But when you look at that list of records that he's on the verge of breaking, it's Dak Prescott, it's Carson Wentz, it's Baker Mayfield. You're not saying that those guys are elite guys, or you could argue one way or the other as to whether or not they're the elite guys. So it's exciting. I think there's a lot of reason to think that he's going to be able to tear it up moving forward. But the league's pretty smart, coordinators are pretty smart, and you got to see what happens when people start catching up with what he does well and what he does poorly.
Eric Mangini, have a great weekend. We only got 30 seconds. What's the weather like in Cleveland today?
the weather is cold, as you can imagine. I know you're probably headed to ski. We need snow skis here. It's pretty consistent that way.
All right, good talking to you, Coach. Yeah,
all right, we'll talk to you soon.
Joy, we saw this yesterday. Binghamton, New York, not a mountain, got 40 inches of snow. Utah's mountains got last night 6 inches of snow. Those are mountains. They had 5, 6, 7 times as much snow just in a town out east.
Yeah. I like snow for a weekend.
Yeah.
It can't be a lifestyle.
Boom, there you go. RecTech Grills, RecTeq.com. It's a grill you can turn on with your phone. You can cook from your phone. 6-year warranty, built like a tank. Last grill you'll buy, RecTech Grills.
Hey, I'm Gabby.
I'm Taylor. I'm Nika.
And we're the hosts of a new podcast called
Cadaver Gals. We're just 3 fun and flirty gals talking about all the fun and flirty ways that people expire.
Like how 3 people died because of a poodle.
Basically, this podcast is kind of like Sex in the City. If they only talked about dead people. Join us as we laugh, but mostly cry, in the face of death.
So listen to Cadaver Gals.
New episodes out on Wednesdays.
Listen to Cadaver Gals on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You already know that The Challenge is the most heart-pounding competition show on television. But do you ever wonder how challenge competitors are selected?
We're gonna have to make a deal with the devil.
Or which challenges were too dangerous for TV?
Is it really blood though?
Well, you can learn all that and so much more on MTV's official Challenge podcast. Hosted by none other than me, your girl Tori, and me, Anissa. We're giving you the inside scoop on the brand new season of The Challenge from 2 people who live through all the chaos, insanity, and the drama. Plus, we're going to be interviewing producers, other challengers, and maybe even the occasional superfan. Which means you're going to hear things on this podcast that you will not hear anywhere else. Let's go, baby. Listen to MTV's official Challenge podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you like fresh out of the oven chocolate chip cookies? Do you love wholesome heteronormative lifestyles? Do you like pretending that menstrual cycles just don't exist? Then you'll hate Tampon Rock. Tampon Rock is a scripted comedy podcast, kind of like Friends, except gay and with black people. So, actually, really not like Friends.
Right. But it is about friends. And it's a musical, sorta. But that's all the time we have, so...
Listen and follow Tampon Rock on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's pretty easy these days to feel disconnected. We're pulled in so many different directions, and that can leave us feeling incredibly fragmented. But together, we can grow more connected to ourselves and to each other. And that is what my new podcast is all about, coming home to our wholeness. Listen and follow Holy Human with me, Leanne Rhymes, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Thanks for listening to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Hour 3 live in Los Angeles. It's the Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. Joy Taylor, have you ever done anything? Like you do things sometimes just because it's an easier thing to do. Like you don't... Like I find myself, I do a lot of things based on, it's just an easier life if I do it this way. I had an ex-girlfriend once. I never forget this. About 10 years. 10, 15 years ago. And she said, you were always a guy that made good money and didn't work very hard. And I said, I think I work really hard. She goes, no, I've dated guys who work really hard. You don't dig ditches, you just talk. And so I was thinking about this because I saw a documentary on professional sports gamblers.
Okay.
And if the only sport I bet a lot is the NFL. I'll cherry pick stuff, but I bet the NFL. The reason I do it is because I only have to watch football Sunday and then like one game Monday. Like, if you have to bet hockey or baseball, you have to sit home every night and watch 150 games.
Sure.
What kind of deterioration of your life? If you're with a beautiful girl, oh, sorry, I gotta watch a hockey game tonight. You wanna go out to dinner, baby? No, I can't. I have to watch a Twins-Padres game. So I would choose it simply because it's a better life. I bet a ton of NFL because it's an easier, better life. You're not going to end up looking like this pale guy sitting eating Cheetos all day watching hockey.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I made that decision a long time ago when I chose to go to college. And
so what were you going to major in?
Well, okay, so this is a good example. My first major in college was psychology because I thought I wanted to work in an insane asylum.
Oh boy! And you
because
did. You
I
got
watched
TV.
Gothica with Halle Berry, and I was like, oh, that seems like a very interesting job to do every day. And so I took it my first year. I was very interested in it, but at the end of the year, I talked to one of my professors, and I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. Like, I want to have my own practice. Like, how long will I have to be in school before I can like get to that space? And he was like, probably 12 years. Oh, I'll be pivoting. Thank you for that information. Yeah,
Yes.
I don't. That's a lot of work.
I used to have a father-in-law. He said, "You always talk about quality of life." He goes, "We didn't talk about quality of life." And I'm like, "You used to take castor oil when you were sick. But a lot of things you did in the 40s and 50s we didn't do." Like,
No, I think people make. Listen, there are people out there who work very hard.
Yes.
And
but quality of life is almost all my decisions. Or people go, "Why don't you do this?" Because it seems irritating. Why do you do this? Because it seems fun.
Well, I think we're privileged in that our skills have allowed us to have jobs
Yes,
where.
no question. But even in broadcasting, I choose.
Oh yeah, like I never wanted to be a reporter. I didn't want to be on the road all the time. I didn't want to be standing outside in the cold.
Prime example. My first job was play-by-play.
Yeah.
And I quit play-by-play. I didn't quit. I had a AAA job out of college. I was a step from the bigs. You know why I quit? I didn't want to live in Marriott's. I wanted to be home at night with my friends, my girlfriend. I wanted to be home at night having a better life than in a Marriott in Cincinnati.
Yeah, and now because of the pandemic, you can do play-by-play from your home. So it's a completely different lifestyle.
My point is, almost everything I decide, I know it's a privilege, but is based on what will it be? What will the quality of life my life be based on that decision?
Yeah.
And if it's less, like camping, why would I pay to lower the quality of my bed?
I'm 100% with you. I don't want to sleep in a sleeping bag in a tent in the woods.
Yeah, I would pay
I have
to be less comfortable.
I have a memory foam mattress with controlled temperature.
Look at Goulet. Goulet is totally not understanding or appreciating this complex conversation.
Well, I'll say this: I've been uncomfortable. I've lived uncomfortable, and if I don't have to do that, then I'm not going to do that.
I know we sound like a bunch of jerks.
Yeah, we do.
But I'm just saying, almost every decision I make is. What makes my life happier and easier? Maybe I'm lazy.
No.
All right. Here's Romanowski's going to come. Bill Romanowski and Jason McIntyre. Can I want to go on just a rant here about Brady because I thought about this. So I swear to brother. So Brady and Arians, I've never seen a couple talk about their relationship more. Like, in Hollywood there's going to be a divorce. When the couple keeps telling you how great their relationship is, they're headed for divorce. My wife would, if you asked my wife about me, she'd complain for 15 minutes. Our relationship's great. She would never be like, she'd be like, he doesn't take this out. Boy, I'm on it. But we have a great relationship. We're honest with each other. We yell at each other all the time, and it's fun. So anytime a relationship, everybody's talking about how great it is, I'm always like, okay. You ever go to a party? Oh, Bob is just wonderful. Shirley is the best. They're getting divorced. So Brady and Arians can't stop talking about their relationship. Yesterday, Brady talked about it again. Here it is.
I feel like we have a great relationship. From the moment I got here, we've had just great dialogue. And I certainly appreciate, all the insight he gives me. And, the way that he coaches and leads. It's very open, honest, dialogue about, how we think that we can, certainly how I can be most effective and any questions he has. We always have a great open lines of communication.
It doesn't matter. Belichick and Brady, it's been confirmed. They didn't go to dinner one time in 20 years. 20 years, they didn't break bread. It doesn't matter how they get along. I want you to think about something. So I'm going to show you Aaron Rodgers' stats. So Aaron Rodgers lives in Green Bay. He's got a team. They fire the coach, and they bring in a new head coach and a new system. And Aaron struggled with it. Let's put these numbers up. So Aaron last year, this is Aaron Rodgers, with just a new coach, who appears to be good, completed 62% of his passes. His quarterback rating was mid-90s, 26 TDs. In 1 year, Aaron didn't leave his city. throw to new receivers. He didn't meet new. He just got, and by the way, he had a preseason. He had a preseason last year. Look how average Aaron Rodgers was last year, by Aaron Rodgers standards. I mean, Aaron Rodgers standards, right? And by the way, Aaron physically is still in his peak. Aaron 1 year later is now crushing. I mean, his numbers are insane. Tom Brady, at 43 years old, was asked to move to a new climate and city. No preseason. New coach, new coordinator. New receivers, new offensive line, new audible system. Tom Brady at 43 in his first year with Arians has better numbers than Aaron Rodgers had in his first year with Matt LaFleur in completion percentage, passing touchdowns, passing yards a game, and passer rating. He's 43. So Brady was asked to move to a different city, a different climate, different receivers, different tight ends, different audible. Everything was different. Everything with no preseason. Better numbers than Aaron had. Just being asked, new coach. And I'm not saying it's easy for either. But doesn't it lead you to believe that in the second year of Arians, it'll get better? You'll have a preseason? You'll have an OTA? Like, I think sometimes we look at this, we all acknowledge this is not a shot at Aaron Rodgers. He's great. Aaron even struggled first year. Same house, same zip code, same teammates, same lines. He just had a new coach, new system. That's it. From a guy that's young and intellectual and smart, and we asked Brady to change everything. His address, his house, he's everything. He even talks about the climate. Brady acknowledges we can't early in the season. We can't do the post-practice work we used to do in New England. It's just too damn hot. You can't ask receivers after practicing in Tampa for 2.5 hours, let's go throw balls for an hour. They're exhausted. They're shot. Brady also had Scotty Miller got hurt. Mike Evans got hurt. Chris Godwin got hurt. O.J. Howard left. Gronk was new to the system. I just think we're being crazy at what we're asking Brady to do. When we asked him for all new stuff, and also, it doesn't really matter if he and Arians get along. It doesn't really matter. He didn't break bread once with Belichick. Like Sean Payton Brees are tight. That's rare. Like we all get that. That's not the way it works. Head coach, quarterback, Chuck Noll and Bradshaw, at odds. They were the dynasty of my life in the 70s. They were at odds. The dynasty we just got out of, Belichick, Brady, constantly arguing at odds. It doesn't matter. Brady, first year, all new stuff. Many of his numbers are better than Aaron's. And Aaron's in his prime. So it's going to be fine. Did you get along? I tend to get along with bosses. But did you get along with every boss you've ever had?
Yeah.
What if we didn't get along?
I try to get along with everybody, though.
What if we didn't get along?
I think if we genuinely did not like each other, then it would come across like we didn't like each other.
All right. Because I can't stand Goulet, but yet it plays on television.
You don't have to be best friends with people. Like, you can have a working relationship with people.
I don't think in television. I don't think you can fake it in TV.
It's harder, yes.
I think it's hard to fake it in TV.
There's certain occupations where it's harder, but I think mostly as long as you are a professional, you can get good work done.
Weren't you surprised though Brady Belichick at the end when the documentary came out? Like it was pretty.
I was surprised it was as hostile at that, and hostile's probably an extreme word, but
it was a little prickly.
It was that prickly at that point.
Okay.
Like throughout their 20 years, that's a long time to spend with someone without having some disagreements. Yeah. But that part of it was surprising.
Bill Romanowski's got 4 rings. Love having him on the show. Jason McIntyre's got his NFL picks 2 on a Friday.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Do you ever think about how you're gonna die? I think I'm going to choke to death, specifically on a Cool Ranch Dorito. I'm definitely slipping in the shower. I'm for sure gonna die taking a selfie. Anyway. Hey, I'm Gabby. I'm Taylor. I'm Nika. And we're the hosts of a new podcast called Cadaver Gals. We're just 3 fun and flirty gals talking about all the fun and flirty ways that people expire. Like
3 people died because of a poodle.
And how you shouldn't trust your ex-boyfriend to help you get rid of a body.
We'll also find out about all of Nika's boyfriends.
That is untrue, and we will find out that Taylor's a horse girl.
And Gabby is
The best one.
Okay, Gabby.
Basically, this podcast is kind of like Sex in the City if they only talked about dead people.
Join us as we laugh,
But mostly cry
in the face of death.
We'll also learn how to grow as people through the power of friendship.
So listen to Cadaver Gals for your weekly dose of chaos.
Cadaver Gals is a production of School of Humans and iHeartRadio. New episodes out on Wednesdays.
Listen to Cadaver Gals on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast.
You're going to come into a new season of joy and fulfillment like you've never seen. Hi, I'm Joel Osteen. I have a daily podcast where I talk about overcoming obstacles, accomplishing dreams, and becoming all you were created to be. You were made for more. You have new levels in you. There are seeds of greatness waiting to spring forth. You can't think negative thoughts and live a positive life. And on my daily podcast, I'll help you get your mind going in the right direction. You may have had some disappointments in the past, but this is a new day. Chains that have held you back are being broken. Doors are going to open that you never dreamed would open. Now do your part. Keep feeding your hopes, feeding your dreams. Don't use your energy to feed your history. Use your energy to feed your destiny. It's inspiring, uplifting, and encouraging. I think you'll like it.
Listen to the Joel Osteen Podcast on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sunday, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks take on Washington, or the Eagles battle Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. Check local listings for the game in your area, only on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Fox Super 6 is giving away over $3 million. Download the free Fox Super 6 app and make your picks before kickoff Sunday. For your shot to win, all you have to do is correctly predict the outcome of 6 NFL games. And for top stories, scores, and more, go to the Fox Sports app. Bucs Falcons is featured in Sunday's contest. Colin, give us your winner and final score.
Well, you know the Atlanta Falcons are my Bermuda Triangle.
Yes.
It's where my money disappears, so I did not put this in the Blazing Five. I was going to, and Goulet said, no. I've been with you too long. You're not betting that game.
Yep.
So I listened to Goulet. I would have taken Atlanta. I think it's close. You know, right now, Tampa Bay's defense is not playing as well as people think. They should have lost to Minnesota. So I'm going to take 26-23 Tampa Bay, but it's close. Close. By the way, I'm going to pay you after the show today. I have.
Oh, you have my money?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I can't be.
I've been waiting to call myself a professional singer. I need the money first, though.
Yes, I'll give you the money. Hey, Bill Romanowski, 4-time Super Bowl champ. Been friends for a long time, 16 years, 4 rings. And knows the Raiders inside and out, and I'm going to bring him on here live via the Coward Global Satellite Network. So listen, it's 3 years now, Bill. And the Raiders' defense is why they're losing games. Okay, so you know the personnel, you know the players, you know the organization. What is wrong?
Well, just look at it this way, Colin. Out of a $220 million salary cap, you spent $60 million on defense. Guess how much they spent on the offensive line alone? $65 million. They spent more on the offensive line than the entire defense. So, right there, you know, Paul Gunther did not have the personnel to be able to compete, and I think he's done, you know, a pretty damn good job with a bunch of just average to decent players, but no playmakers. And here's the big problem when you don't have a playmaker. When you don't have a playmaker on defense, you don't have a leader. So where does the leadership have to come from? It has to come from the coaches. But how do the coaches motivate players? Players play, players take the field. There's only so much a coach can do. They need to get players lined up to where they can go out there and do their thing, but they're not able to do it. So I look at what Paul Gunther had to do for the longest time, 2.5 years now, and he had to basically be the Wizard of Oz, and couldn't do it with personnel, so he had to try to do it, you know, with his defensive calls. And there's only so long that you can, you know, try to scheme against offenses.
Yeah, especially as offenses, the rules now are all offenses, so it's harder to just, even Belichick's finding out there's limitations. At some point you need dudes. Now, Gruden once again, and I know John and like him, 6-3 now, they're 7-7. It's becoming a trend. His teams get worse throughout his career. His December winning percentage is 37%. It's almost 57 in September. You know, Eric Mangini said, is it because the relationship with him and his quarterbacks has always been prickly and it gets worse over time? Nobody knows. I mean, maybe you know. How much of this is on Gruden?
Hey, I mean, he's the head guy. When you're the head guy, you know, that's a big problem. But to me, you know, I mean, you get rid of Paul Gunther and you got Rob Marinelli to take over, and I mean, is that the answer? I don't think that's the answer. Did they play any better? You know, what they did last night is I think they went into the game saying, okay, you know, I'm not going to get scorched on the run. And what did Herbert do? He lit them up in the passing game. So at the end of the day, this is all on Gruden. You know, when you're the head guy, you make the decisions and you got to take the criticism.
You know, I think, Bill, when you were playing, there were definitely quarterbacks. Quarterbacks have all come to some degree in different shapes and sizes, but mostly it was pocket guys. Elway had some mobility. Most guys didn't. I look at Justin Herbert, 6'6", running around. I mean, I don't know. You tell me. You got 4 rings. Like when you watch Herbert. What do you see?
You know what? You're right. When I played, there weren't a lot of guys. We had Randall Cunningham that, you know, could run, but there weren't a lot of mobile quarterbacks, and John Elway was early in his career. But I looked at him at 6'6", and I'm like, wait a minute, how is this guy running? He looks like a track athlete out there. Really in stride and moves like he's 6'2", 6'3", but he's 6'6". I mean, I was pretty blown away, and hey, I'm excited for, you know, Anthony Lynn was my teammate in Denver, and I hope he's able to keep his job because that is a guy you can build around, and I think they have a great future ahead of them.
I want to shift gears. Bill Romanowski joining us. I want to shift gears. You know, I was talking about this, is that Terry Bradshaw and Chuck Noll were not close. They butted heads, and yet they were dynasty. Belichick and Brady never had dinner together in 20 years. They were a dynasty. And so, you know, Arians and Brady keep talking every week, oh, we really like each other, and I think if you have to brag how much you like each other, you know, maybe you got a problem. If a couple loves each other, they don't have to tell everybody they love each other.
Yeah.
Did you have to, Bill? Did you have to love your defensive coordinator? Do you have to get along with your coach?
I don't think you have to get along with a coach, but what you have to have is respect. And if you have respect, whether you like them or not, it doesn't matter. It's like that for teammates. You don't have to necessarily like all your teammates, but you got to respect what they do out on the football field, how they prepare, what do they do to get ready for a game? Are they in the weight room during the week? You know, they're doing all the right things to put themselves in a position to help the team win. And that, at the end of the day, is, does Brady respect Arians? And I think they respect each other, but they're sure having to answer a lot of questions they shouldn't have to be answering.
Yeah, I agree. So I want you to go back to your career that I've never paid too much attention to records. I mean, obviously, your record gets you into the playoffs. But right now, Pittsburgh's got a better record than Buffalo, and I think Buffalo's a better team today. We saw Monday. Kansas City's record is amazing, but their red zone defense and red zone offense has struggled for a month. Go back to, let's talk Pittsburgh. I watch them, and I'm like, this is a team that right now is not very good. Did you ever play in a team that you had a glossy record, but at the end of the year, Bill, you were concerned. You knew the truth. That you were probably significantly worse than your record.
Yeah, it really comes down to this, Colin, is come the end of the year, you have to be playing your best football. And my first year in Denver, we won our division, got home field advantage in the playoffs, but at the and we clinched, I want to say week 14. I don't remember the exact week, but we then played Jacksonville, who is a wild card team. They come into Mile High, and they kick our butts. And there was just a letdown. We weren't playing great football at the end of the season, and they took advantage of that and kicked our butts. And so you kind of know as a team, you need to have momentum going into the playoffs and at the end of the year, because a lot of it is confidence. Yeah, you have your record, and that is what it is. But as a team, you need that confidence, and you need that that when you go into the playoffs, you know you're going to win. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You play your game, you're a winner.
Yeah, Bill Romanowski. By the way, go to nutrition53.com. Bill's in as good a shape as anybody I know, he and his wife. And by the way, how old are you, Bill, right now? How old are you?
54.
Holy crow, that's not even fair. And you still have abs and everything. That's really discouraging. I don't even know what to say about that. Okay, Romo, it's great talking to nutrition53.com. I've used his protein powders. All that stuff is unbelievable. It's great seeing you.
Take care, Colin. Great seeing you.
Yeah, his stuff is great. My wife even likes it.
He makes a good point.
It is.
About working together. You don't have to get along, but you do have to respect people.
No question.
If you don't have any respect for someone, it's basically impossible.
Isn't it? Honestly, if you're on a movie set, do I really think all the actors are? They don't all like each other.
Nobody gets along with everyone, and if you are the person that gets along with everyone, you're probably a scammer. That's just not real life.
That is a good word.
So there's no way that, in any working situation, that you're going to get along with everyone.
Probably a scammer.
Yeah.
So hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Everybody knows that guy or that girl. It's nice all the time and happy all the time. It's I'm friends with this person, that person.
I know somebody like that in our business. Total scammer. By the way, I'm not telling you folks. That's industry talk.
Inside baseball.
Carshield.com. The code is heard. Car breaks down. Don't freak out. Carshield.com. Get coverage today. Customizable, flexible plans. Joy Taylor with the news.
Heard on the news. This is the Herd.
I'll tell you after the show, though.
You'll tell me?
Oh, I'll tell you after the show. I'll give you that $100 there, and I'll tell you who it is. Goulet, I think, even knows.
I wonder if I can guess. Well, Justin Herbert had himself a night. Both quarterbacks actually had themselves a night.
Oh, it was. Even, by the way, before he got hurt, Carr played well. Mariota played well.
Yeah.
Herbert.
I feel bad for Derek Carr.
I know. I tell you.
It just wasn't... I didn't know what to expect from Mariota, and it was just so far above whatever my base level expectation was.
If the Raiders don't make the playoffs, I was absolutely riveted by a regular season professional sports game between two non-playoff teams. Yeah. I would never late in the season be that fascinated and that gripped.
It was a great game.
It was an unbelievable game.
It had everything, including Chargers' bad special teams.
Well, oh God, it was so Chargers. Doesn't it show you, though, when quarterback play is good, football's good?
Yes.
I mean, Mariota comes in, it's like, oh, he's a gamer. It's a real game. It's fun. Quarterback play, I cannot watch. I don't care who the teams are. Right now I find New England hard to watch. They can't make any plays.
It was fun last night. And Justin Herbert got that big divisional win, beating the Raiders 30-27 in overtime. So it was head-to-head. It became a battle of the Ducks, the Oregon Ducks, head-to-head with Mariota, and Herbert spoke about how special that was for him.
Pretty crazy experience. I grew up watching Marcus, and he was my favorite player, and just being from Eugene, I knew that whole program so well, and to be able to play a couple games each year against him, it's been really cool, and just to see him out on the field, it's everything I've ever wanted.
Isn't that crazy?
I love him. He's so sweet. He's such a sweet, nice, level-headed, unassuming And he's just playing with like the poise of a 40-year-old.
That's, you know what a grandma would say? He's a nice boy.
He is. He is a nice boy. I like his haircut. Like I do. He's very, very likable. And generally, I think now we have a tendency like we want a little more like personality and swag and grit. Yeah, like he just like goes and plays football. I love it.
He was smiling the whole game. How about at the end of the game when he reaches over and they get the mic? He's like, I got it! I got it!
He is. He's so happy. I thought it was great. And he's like just talking about Mariota. Obviously, you know, he was a mentor for him and somebody he looked up to as an Oregon Duck. I think it's wonderful that the Chargers have their quarterback of the future going straight from Phillip Rivers to him, and I can't wait to see how he develops. He really is shocking to watch. He is just so poised, and one of the things I really love about him the most on the field is he's not afraid of when the pocket is collapsing and his paws on him, like he doesn't panic.
Well, in that, Cam and Big Ben had that. There's a physical confidence. Like when Cam would have people like hovering over him. When you're 6'6", 250, let's be honest, it doesn't hurt as much.
And you know it's going to take, they're going to have to bring you down.
With two people.
Yes. It was a really fun game to watch. So the Saints are getting a boost this weekend with the return of Drew Brees. The Chiefs have an incredibly talented quarterback, obviously, so that's going to be a huge challenge for them. But corner Marshawn Lattimore is confident that the Saints can hang with Kansas City on Sunday. He said they've got a lot of weapons. We've got to defend it. And that's all. They're great. We're great. It's going to be a great battle. I'm not looking at that like there's some super team. I feel like we're stacked, just like they're stacked, so we're going to go out there and play, and the best man wins.
Yeah, I think the Saints are stacked. I think the Saints have the best roster in the league.
This is
such a good game.
This could be a Super Bowl preview.
I think. You know, again, 401k on the line. It's probably it's close. I mean, yesterday I said Bills. Didn't I do Bills, Saints?
Bills, Saints, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I feel today, but I do have a feeling that Kansas City's going to get their red zone offense right. They better get it right.
Well, if they get the bye, they're going to be in a much better situation than everyone else in the AFC as well. So, finally, Metcalf has emerged as a top target for Russell Wilson, and he's putting up some big numbers this season. He has 1,180 receiving yards with 3 games to go. Yeah. He only needs 108 more to break Steve Largent's franchise record.
My favorite football player as a kid.
For receiving yards with the Seahawks, he has 1,287, and Metcalf is on pace to finish with 1,452.
So the Seahawks were an expansion team when I was a kid. It was 1976, 1977, and Steve Largent was a receiver. You had the expansion draft, right? And so I think they got Largent out of Houston, the Houston Oilers, and he had the best hands for a decade in the NFL. So I can always remember this. I'm romanticizing. So the Raiders were great. And the Raiders had a cornerback named Lester Hayes, and he was stick 'em all over him. And I remember somebody asked him, why do you guys keep losing to the expansion Seahawks? He's like, I'm so damn tired of you guys calling them expansion. It's 3 years. They're a good football team because they used to own the Raiders. So the Raiders had all these great players. Seattle had Largent, Jim Zorn, Sherman Smith, and a terrible defense. And Steve Largent was, and by the way, didn't he become governor of Oklahoma? Senator or governor of Oklahoma. He went into politics, yeah.
Well, only 4 times in Seahawks franchise history has a receiver had over 1,200 receiving yards in a season. Largent has 3, and Corn Robinson has 1. And they are at Washington this weekend, which, by the way, Alex Smith is out for Washington this weekend against the Seahawks. Dwayne Haskins will start.
I still like Washington to cover because they won't
They're not going to make it too complicated.
No, and by the way, Alex Smith was dinged up, so they would have limited some of that offense. So I feel like the Washington's going to keep competitive on special teams.
And they have a good defense.
Oh, no, Washington's. Ron Rivera's working, folks.
Yeah.
By the way, we all thought he was a good hire. It's working.
I want to wait on their future to see what they do at the quarterback position.
But the defensive side is all good.
That's rolling.
Enjoy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herdline News.
All right, Jason McIntyre, tomorrow's headlines today. The former newspaper guy now does digital for Fox Sports, TV, radio, all that stuff. He makes his NFL picks, and he's really good at it.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
In the summer and autumn of 2020, the city of Portland, Oregon became the center of a vast media blitz. Thousands of viral videos showing marching federal agents and police officers tear gas, black-clad anarchists and fires went viral all over the internet. What didn't go viral was the truth, because the story of Portland's Black Lives Matter movement protests of 2020 is so much stranger than I think the mainstream media would ever be willing to cover. I was there, and more importantly, the people that I talked to for my new show, Uprising, A Guide from Portland, were there. Through their experiences, you'll learn the truth, both about Portland and about what's coming for the rest of the United States in the next few years. Listen to Uprising, A Guide from Portland on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Ever wondered why there are two ways to spell donuts? Or why some people think you can find water underground just by wandering around with a stick? Believe it or not, this is stuff you should know. You Know the podcast with over 1 billion listens. It's now for your eyes, so you can read it. Stuff You Should Know, an incomplete compendium of mostly interesting things, covers everything from the origin of the Murphy bed to why people get lost. Become the most interesting person you know now at stuffyoushouldknow.com or wherever books are sold.
Discovery Plus, a new streaming service bringing you the greatest collection of real-life entertainment and your favorite brands, exclusive originals. Won't find them anywhere else. Discovery Plus, 2021, U.S. only. All right, Jason McIntyre was a newspaper guy, and then he smartened up and went into digital and TV and radio and stuff, and he also smartened up and befriended me, and his career's just taken off, not even joking with that. Straight-fired Jason McIntyre's got a podcast every day for iHeart. All right, let's get him in here for his NFL picks.
Befriended you. This guy. What a character.
This guy is
befriended you.
Oh, by the way, bet of the year in college football is...
Give me Clemson, big, huge, like triple digits over Notre Dame this weekend. Just take my word for it. Thank me later, guys.
It is. He's right. That's the bet of the year in college football. I've only had one huge bet in college football in 2 years. It was Clemson over Ohio State.
Yes.
Clemson over Notre Dame this weekend is the bet of the year in college football. All right, let's start. Here we go. Tomorrow's headlines today. Seahawks at the Washington football team.
Yeah, I saw you've been talking about this game a lot. You're worried for Russell Wilson's health. The headline will be A Christmas Carol in D.C. Gimme Seattle big, Colin. I know people like Washington here. Hey, they've won 4 straight. They're leading the NFC East, but that's like saying you're the smartest Kardashian. It just doesn't really matter. There's not a lot of competition there, okay? This is a Seattle team right now. I like what I saw against the Jets, but everybody loves when they play the Jets. This is really a Seattle team trending better. Colin, they lead the NFL in sacks since week 9, and they're now going up against Dwayne Haskins, okay? He's more reliable, okay, than the Wi-Fi I've got in my basement here in my house in the South Bay. Haskins is awful, okay? 5 turnovers against Cleveland. This is a guy Ron Rivera banished from the team. They're like, just don't come to the facility, Haskins. You're not studying up, and now he's got to start him. I love Seattle here. I can't believe the line's only 6. I think it'll creep up to hit a touchdown, and I think you got to get on Seattle, Colin.
Tomorrow's headlines today, Patriot the Dolphins. I like Miami a lot in this one, but
yeah?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we know how Bill Belichick is as a coach. He struggled last week, got embarrassed. The headline will be How the Grinch Stole Tua's Christmas. And, of course, the Grinch, Bill Belichick. Colin, how are you backing Miami when you know Belichick owns rookie quarterbacks? He's won 11 straight against rookie quarterbacks, 25-5 in his career. We're going to see a lot of exotic defenses. Remember Justin Herbert having an incredible year. He had no idea what to do against the Patriots defense a couple weeks ago. This is a guy who totally knows Tua, and you know why, Colin? He's tight with Nick Saban. We saw the Showtime documentary. They have a history. How many times do you think Bill's talked to Nick Saban about Tua and his strengths and weaknesses? I'm worried about Tua going into this game. I think the Patriots got humiliated by the Rams on national television. By the way, Belichick off a double-digit loss, 19-5 against the spread. And yes, a lot of that's with Tom Brady. But this is a guy who has a lot of pride. I really like the Patriots here. This is my favorite side of the NFL weekend.
Yeah, we disagree on our first 2 picks. Tomorrow's headlines today, Eagles and the Cardinals. I know, Vegas loves Philly. You love Philly, right?
Well, the headline will be Die Hard with a Vengeance. We all know Die Hard is a great Christmas movie.
It is.
I'm kidding. It's not. Okay, but this is all about the cluster injuries in the Eagles secondary. Colin, it is bad, okay? Now, Darius Slay is one guy who has practiced a little bit, but they have 5 defensive backs out, okay? And you'll never believe run more sets with 4 wide receivers than anyone in the league. The Arizona Cardinals. They lead the league in 4 wide receiver sets. I think this sets up poorly for the Eagles. They're pulling guys up off the practice squad. I mean, these guys were delivering DoorDash food 2 months ago, and now they're starting against DeAndre Hopkins and Christian Kirk. It could get ugly, and everybody got excited about Jalen Hurts. I don't want to get too X's and O's on you, but the New Orleans Saints game plan last week in the first half was awful. They had their edge rushers pushing up to pressure Hurts, opening running lane for him. He ran for over 100 yards, so what they do in the second half, totally adjusted. The Eagles only had like 104 yards in the second half.
Yeah.
Saints were able to come back. So the Cardinals will use that. They're not going to pressure Hurts. They're just going to prevent him from running and say, hey, rookie, beat me with your arm. Good luck. Give me the Cardinals here.
Tomorrow's headlines today. This is my favorite pick. I love the Saints. Chiefs at the Saints.
Ooh, okay, well, this is the best game of the weekend, Colin. Very exciting. Everybody's going to be watching the return of Drew Brees. The headline will be, I'll be Mahomes for Christmas. Trying to work in a little Christmas music there. I love Christmas music, people, by the way. I can't take Drew Brees here, Colin. All the 4s from earlier this week are gone. The big professional money is with you, right, on the Saints. But I can see why, right? The Chiefs' 4th road game in 5 weeks haven't covered 5 weeks in a row. But it's mostly been they're sleepwalking through the game or they just take their foot off the gas leading 30-10. But this is a Super Bowl preview, right? We know the Saints, probably the best team in the NFC, Saints or Packers. And I see Andy Reid really emptying the playbook here to show people, hey, I know we're not covering the spread. We are still the best team in the league. Tyreek Hill on that fast track in the dome. I don't know about the Saints here. I'm back in the Chiefs. At 3, you got what number for the play?
I bet I got Saints +4.
Yeah, so that's the best number you're going to get. I missed that, so I'll just take the Chiefs covered by a field goal here. I'm excited for this game, Colin.
Tomorrow's headlines today. Browns at the Giants. I considered this. John knows this, but I was worried about Daniel Jones' health. I do think the Giants played their worst game of the year. I think they'll play really, really well. I would have taken the Giants' side. What say you?
Giants have shown well in primetime this year. All 3 games very close. The headline. Will be Jingle Bells, Cleveland Smells, Baker laid an egg. And listen, I know Baker's looking at his screen and right now and he's angry. Baker was phenomenal on Monday, okay? Yep. But this is a tough spot off that big loss, back-to-back primetime games. We just got word in the last hour. The number 1 rated guard, according to Pro Football Focus, Wyatt Teller, he's out this week. He will not play. Yeah. If you look back earlier this season, he missed 3 games. They lost 2 of them, okay? The offensive line not as good without him. They could not generate an 80-yard rusher on the ground without Wyatt Teller. And I just have some concerns against the pretty good Giants front. I know it could be Colt McCoy, and I'm going to stop making fun of him because he knocked me out of my Survivor League when he beat Seattle. But I do think offensively they could have some success through the air. Cleveland secondary got kind of torched by Lamar Jackson. They can't stop the run. Let's be real, Colin. This Cleveland defense is not good. If the Giants are going to get to 17, 20 points, it could happen in this one. I like a close game. I did bet in the Giants in the first half. I love what I saw from them in primetime first half against the Steelers, against the Eagles, against the Bucs, but they're not a great team, so they fade. I'm leaning to the Giants here against Cleveland in a kind of a letdown spot.
No, I actually think this is the sharp play, but I don't get Daniel Jones at 100% or maybe even 80%, so I passed on it. By the way, I'll say it again. I'm a more NFL bettor. I bet a handful of college games and NBA games, so I do bet it. Clemson over Notre Dame minus 10.5. This is one of my. I do this about once, twice a year. I'm like, Clemson's the play this week. Explain why.
Should we tease? Well, I kind of want to tease what we've got next week. You and I combining. Should we tell them?
No.
No. Okay. I won't say anything. We got something fun coming up next week. But Clemson, listen, this is a Notre Dame defensive coordinator, Colin, who just took the Vanderbilt job.
Yep.
What's he been doing all week? The last couple weeks, recruiting, building a staff, and now you got to face Trevor Lawrence and a Clemson team who suffered their only loss against Notre Dame. I think all signs point to a monster Clemson showing here. This is a good Notre Dame team, but not great by any stretch of the imagination. Payback is going to be good. Clemson gets 3 defensive starters back from the earlier Notre Dame meeting. And everybody watch that game, and I'm going to just remind you, the public loves Notre Dame here as a big underdog. signal to me to load up on Clemson.
We agree on that. So we agree on the Giants. We agree on Clemson's a great bet. We agree on the Arizona Cardinals, and that's about it. All right, buddy. Good seeing you.
I'll talk to you next week, buddy.
Yeah, we're doing something next week. That's fun. So I only work Monday and Tuesday next week. Now, what day do you work?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Why are you working?
And then Sunday for football, which is a work day for us.
No, you're not taking Christmas off.
No.
No, why is that?
That's okay. Because I don't want to travel, you know.
Oh, you're not traveling?
Yeah, no, I'm not traveling.
We're going to be alone at Christmas?
No. I have cousins that live here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, just checking on you.
Yeah.
So we don't fake this. We actually like each other. Speak for yourself. Coming up next. Be safe.
My name is Jamie Loftus, and I'm here to tell you about my new show, Lolita Podcast. Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov is one of the most controversial works of all time, and our culture has done its protagonist a huge disservice over the years. I've spent the last few months getting to the bottom of how America turned this abused young girl into a sex symbol, and what that says about us. New episodes drop weekly on Monday. Listen to Lolita Podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi, this is Bowen Yang here, and if you're as excited as I am about the upcoming 4th season of Search Party on HBO Max, then you'll want to tune in to Search Party, the podcast. In each episode, I go behind the scenes with the writers and actors of the disturbingly dark comedy and chat favorite moments and themes with special guest celebrity fans. Search Party Season 4 comes to HBO Max on January 14th, with Seasons 1 through 3 available now. Meanwhile, subscribe and listen to Search Party, the podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get podcasts.